Good morning. It's Sunday. I don't usually stream on this day, but I have off for the holiday. And since I had work on Friday, we're streaming this morning. I am very stuffy. So, it's a good thing we're only doing one moment. It's probably also going to be long as fuck. But, just. Hopefully we'll get through it because God, my allergies. I'm just stuffed beyond compare. And that's with allergy medicine. And I'm still ugh. Okay. So let us put that back up. And switch the scenes over to that. Pause some Spotify. Alright. And continue. So let's do mountain. No two summer evenings in Sunset Bird look quite the same. Not downtown, not at the beaches, and not on a street, where the only change that anyone had seen in years was the arrival of a new tourist. What fucking route is this? Though you hadn't seen any stars in the sky, you knew the day was almost over from the sound of chirping crickets. Shadows of swaying branches were stretching across the grass. Well, probably. You hadn't gotten the chance to experience the sunset before you got pulled into whatever this was while trying to clarify your plans for tomorrow with Baxter. He paced back and forth between a pair of half-packed or half-unpacked, depending on how some saw it, suitcases. Piles of folded clothes were abandoned on the bed. Oh, is this his bedroom? Is that where we are? You stood as far away from the disaster area as possible. You sat on the only untouched corner of the mattress. You laid out across the top half of the bed, closest to the headboard. Helped pick up or leaned against the dresser, amused. You're laying out on his bed. Baxter didn't mind where you were, happy to work around you. Or more probably, he just didn't notice. He accidentally threw a pair of rolled-up socks in your face earlier. He apologized profusely for it. This wasn't the first time that you'd been in the condo. Baxter invited you over before, but so far it had only been the first floor. You were in the master bedroom now. Ooh, spicy times. As a kid, the condo was the equivalent of Fort Knox. No way in, and if someone unwanted did sneak in, there was probably no way out. It just wasn't worth the risk. Being in that room was closer to a fantasy than it was a reality. As much as someone could dream about being in a rental bedroom anyway. And yet, here you were. All thanks to Baxter, who didn't seem to realize the gravity of the situation. One of the doors to the armoire, his word for it, was ajar. Hangers rattled from the excessive force Baxter used to remove a few of his jackets. Honestly, you weren't sure why he packed them all. It never got cold enough anywhere in Southern California to wear outerwear during the winter, never mind the summer. And yet he still brought them, no matter how much he was convinced otherwise.
So?
It will be cooler in temperature, but just barely. While we won't be seeing any snow, I would suggest you bring a jacket and a sturdy pair of shoes. He pulled another zipper on one suitcase, peering into its contents, but not deeply investigating for long before he moved on to the next thing, a drawer filled with nothing that he abruptly shut. He waded past the only part of his wardrobe that remained neat and in place, formal clothes. The suit he wore to the interactive play was perfectly arranged for use at any minute, in case there was another regal emergency. Baxter hesitated before leaving that be. His fingers grazed the top of the comforter as he passed. Ryan, if you would. You moved aside as he wove through an increasingly intricate disaster area to look for something else that he hadn't made clear to you. It seemed that up until now, Baxter had been living out of his suitcases, which wouldn't ordinarily strike you as a problem until he said he needed at least one of them to be empty. If only so that he could relocate his things from one to the other. He was certain that he'd need no more than an afternoon to pack before you arrived. But there were some things in this world that not even the likes of Baxter Ward can handle with grace and composure. Mornings were one. Personal organization was another.
I apologize.
I must apologize. He stopped in place. The corners of his eyes softened as he turned to you, brows knit together even as he busied his hands with folding a pair of pants, only to immediately throw it into the suitcase. I realize this can't be terribly entertaining. Don't worry about it. He didn't need to apologize. There wasn't any problem waiting, and besides, it was more amusing than he gave it credit for. That is one of your charm points. In for a penny, in for a pound. He chuckled, shaking his head with quiet amusement. Content with your reply, he went back to unconsciously constructing a labyrinth of his possessions. You wondered how he fit everything into 2 suitcases to begin with. The entire situation made about as much sense as anything else around him, which was to say that maybe a quarter of it followed any linear chain of thought. The rest left much to be desired. Baxter had a tendency to work through things in a sort of circuitous sense. Wait, I have to bring up my page. Hold on. My page for words that I don't know how to say. Circuitous. There we go. I feel like I've said that before, but saying things and then reading them and saying them are different. Circuitous sense by his own logic that he used to explain things as a matter of fact. There we go. So much so that you couldn't help but just take him on his word, even if the details only made themselves clearer later. What was happening now was even more convoluted than normal. The first point, Baxter very suddenly announced that he was going on a vacation away from his vacation. A 3-day and 2-night jaunt to a mountain lodge a handful of hours away by his judgment. Plans were already underway as soon as he figured out where he was staying in California. It made sense if he was trying to get more bang for his buck for his experience in the area, but that wasn't the main reason. The second point, it was a family tradition happening without his family. He and his parents always went to the Rockies in the summer, except this time he was staying in California. Baxter decided to make a trip out to the mountains here regardless. And that was also fine. Except he wasn't prepared for the trip at all. You would have thought that someone else... Oh, okay. You would have thought that someone else planned when and where it had happened with the way he was rushing around the condo, trying to pack and trying to remember what to pack. And point 3, the most particular. He rented a second room in the lodge, despite coming here alone, and to visit no one in particular. He did have some acquaintances in the state, but none of them were people he wanted to take a trip with. Audaciously, after explaining the situation, he asked you to take up the free room without missing a beat. You, a person who he dated for all half a second. A couple's trip was the kind of thing that was more appropriate for months down the line, something to cement a relationship as steady. But apparently being together at all was plenty enough for Baxter. The weekend was free, and your moms were able to accept the idea of you going. Shockingly. Going up to the mountains to stay in a lodge was a cool opportunity. It wasn't the kind of trip you and your family took. Not that you'd taken many trips since your breaks got busier and Liz moved away, so the prospect of traveling anywhere further than the city was exciting. Even if the entire situation was pretty absurd. Negotiating with your moms went better than expected. They hadn't vetoed it immediately because you were an adult, but they weren't excited about the idea. It was one thing if you were going on a trip with the usual cast of suspects, but Baxter, a guy you basically met the other day? He was polite and well-spoken, however. Oh, he was polite and well-spoken. However, your mom didn't know his parents, a rule that you thought was obsolete once you were in high school, but not so when it came to overnight trips. They eventually gave their blessing when Liz took your side in the discussion. She was convinced by the fact that you'd be staying in an entirely separate room to him. I've got to ask, what was your plan if you said I couldn't go? So let me guess, there was a buy one, get one deal on hotel rooms. Having a second room just because it seemed like a Baxter thing to do. Okay. I've got to ask, what was your plan if I said I couldn't go? Making the trip alone would not have dissuaded me from going. Baxter's hand stalled over the suitcase he was bringing on the trip. He brushed back his hair into place, turning to his side to search for another misplaced necessity.
Of course.
I thought there was a possibility I might make friends during my stay here. There is no guarantee, of course. I wouldn't hope to make any presumptions there. His gaze wandered, lips tightening at the corners of his mouth involuntarily. His contemplative expression faltered as he looked up from his suitcase to you. But I thought if I did, then would the trip not be made exceptionally better with company? If not, then so be it. Acquiring a room is the difficult part. A reservation needs to be made weeks in advance, whereas canceling one only needs a notice of 48 hours or more. It's taken off the bill, no questions asked. Realistically, I would only need 2 days to know if I was going alone or with company.
See?
That was the case with you, was it not? You're so over the top, you know that? Well, I'm glad they're so accommodating about it. I'd hate for you to lose the deposit. Feels like I should have known. You're certainly an optimist. You applauded his stunt. You're so over the top, you know that? Me? Perish the thought. He snickered under his breath, continuing to search through his bag for treasure. Baxter went back to packing, though his suitcases looked to be middling in quantities now that they've been more now than they'd been. Words. Middling in quantities more now than they'd been earlier in the evening. One day I'll get words right. Ah! He glanced over his shoulder at you, a black shirt folded in his hands, as neatly as any store display you'd seen in your life. This might not be an ideal time to ask, but as we are speaking about the trip, I did want to ask as to where your personal boundaries lie, Ryan. I am deeply appreciative of your mother's approval, but what I am comfortable with may not mirror what they are comfortable with. You only need to say so if you are in agreement with their preferences, but if not... Baxter had a tendency to act a lot older than he actually was. It was times like this, when he smirked entirely too mischievously, that you were reminded that he was barely any older than you.
Well...
I may forget by the time we get there. Conspiratorial looks were exchanged from across the room as you smiled crookedly. Baxter was a real one when it came down to it. Moms were hoping Liz could come along too, so I wouldn't be alone. He didn't look surprised by the suggestion, apparently aware of how it must have, and certainly did, come off to your parents to invite their youngest on an overnight trip. Good morning! Well, morning here. Actually morning. How are you today? But she argued I wasn't going out of state, and I'm not still a kid. Evening there. Good evening. Time differences. It's like not even 11 a.m. here yet. It's very early, and allergies are killing me. I'm very stuffy this morning, but otherwise good. I just have to call Liz every day. I mean call. She won't let me get away with texting. Not exactly being a Baxter. I don't have trouble getting up in the morning. It's just stuffy. Just like everything exploded and there's pollen everywhere, and we had rain yesterday, so things are even more like in the air this morning. So I just feel very stuffed at the moment. But I don't know if I sound any different. I feel more gravelly, but who knows. If I don't, she said she'd call the hotel instead, and the police, and anyone with a phone number to report that Pepe Le Pew was on the loose. Oh, good, thank you. I can't tell. Baxter snorted. Not laughed, full on snorted. He covered his mouth, quickly avoiding your gaze, as he had to resist the urge to laugh harder. You didn't know whether he'd seen the original cartoons or one of the more recent uses of the character, but he definitely got the reference. I was prepared to give your sister my thanks for convincing your mothers, but it appears everyone has notes on my manners of dress these days. Yeah, Mom joked that those old-fashioned black and white striped jumpsuit inmates wait. Yep, I tripped over sentences again. Mom joked that those old-fashioned black and white striped jumpsuits inmates wore would match your hair. You know, if Liz did call the police on you. How clever. Is a black and white tie out of vogue, Ryan? You aren't wearing a tie. Trying to suppress the grin was nigh impossible, especially after relieving the conversation about his vague resemblance to an aggressively forward skunk and a criminal. I feel like you have to be in a certain age range to actually get that Pepe Le Pew thing. Anyone younger playing this game might not actually get that reference. The time frame in which this story is actually set, like, they'd be old enough to actually get it, but I don't know how many people actually know who Pepe Le Pew is now. Yeah.
Charming.
Your family is quite charming, and I do agree that it is only fair. Try to keep in touch with them while you're away. I'll trust you to care for my fate enough to do that much. For sure, I don't want them to worry. Yeah, it sucks, but I'll call them. Liz wasn't joking. Are you going to keep in touch with your parents? You nodded agreement. Of course you were going to call them. You merely shrugged. I want to shrug, but I'm going to say, yeah, it sucks, but I'll call them. Liz wasn't joking. Please do. The university won't be understanding if I return late due to incarceration. The itinerary for the trip was straightforward enough that Baxter didn't need to look at his laptop to read the details. He kept to his work on the suitcases. Check-in wasn't until 4 p.m. at the earliest, and the drive wasn't so significant that you'd be going for as long as you feared. So the plan was to leave at noon, find dinner somewhere in the area when you got there, then check into the lodge in the evening. The first day would be getting there. The second would be exploring the area in earnest, and then the third would be taking the morning easy before checking out at noon to head back home. Are we gonna have spicy time in this mountain lodge? I haven't had to read too many spicy things yet, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that with no one can actually see my face because the VTuber thing, but like, still. If I get to spicy scenes, it's gonna be a time. Well, home for you. Vacation home for Baxter. It was perfectly reasonable, according to him. Yeah, I know you know. You finished. I didn't even, this playthrough is the only playthrough I've done with the Baxter DLC. I didn't even let myself play another file to see what would happen, on my own. I'm not doing that until I finish this whole thing on stream, and then I'll play it again. But I haven't spoiled myself with anything at all. The only thing I needed a spoiler about was yesterday's memory and how long that show was gonna take. That was the only thing I actually needed a spoiler about. But oh well, we got through it. He wouldn't be overtaxing himself to prepare on either of the big driving days, and you'd have a good amount of time in the lodge. Besides, if you drove that much early in the morning, you were pretty confident you wouldn't make it back in one piece. Yes, morning Baxter. Upon further inspection of Baxter's own supplies, there were a few things left to pack and a few more things you needed to buy. I don't suppose we'll need any formal wear, really. But on that off chance that we'll have dinner at a restaurant that necessitated that... I think it'll be okay with that. But I'll see you tomorrow, Baxter. I gotta pack too. Good luck! As you started to make your way out of the master bedroom, his head snapped up.
See you.
Oh, of course. I will see you tomorrow, Ryan. Have a good evening. Oh, we don't get to pack? Okay. Oh, I do that too. Even when I try to like pack small, I still wind up packing too much. I'm getting better at condensing to a degree. Like, I can pack one bag, but that one bag will be packed to the brim with many different choices, just in case. Like, the other weekend, we went to a resort and casino for Kobe's birthday, and we were only staying overnight. And I still had, like, 3 pairs of shirts, or, like, couple pairs of pants, like, just in case I was going to change. And all I really needed was one shirt and my pajamas. Yeah, exactly. Like, I could buy it, but I'd rather just bring it. Just in case. What if the shirt I pack I hate wearing once I put it on, because that happens. There could be a shirt that I wear all the time that normally is fine, and I'll put it on, like, when I've gone somewhere, and suddenly I hate everything about how it feels. And then I'm just like, I can't wear this. I need to find something else. I think that's why I pack so many shirts, just in case that happens. Yeah, what if I spill on it? Morning came uneventfully, save the final warning from your family about how they deploy a full-fledged investigation team the minute that something seemed to... Okay, to a degree, I get it. You are going on a trip with a virtual stranger. But at the same time, they need to chill a little bit. To be fair, my parents would also... Well... No, at this point, what are we 17 or 18 at this point? If we're 18, I would have just been like, I'm an adult now. Peace. Yeah, we're 18. Okay, yeah. So once I turned 18, and then past 18, like, my parents would try, but then I was just like, I'm an adult now. Bye. Peace out. I'm going. And they respected that to an extent. They were just like, oh, okay. They didn't like it, but they couldn't stop me at the same time. I think that was the reality of them realizing that they didn't actually have authority over me when I was younger. I just didn't push the boundaries at that point. So it was just that I was a good kid who listened to them, and not that I actually respected their boundaries. It was more that I didn't feel like actually breaking any rules. Oh. You had to write to them every day? A 2-day trip? Like, text them or actually write them a letter? Because if you're writing them a letter, depending on where you live... Okay, text them. Okay, alright, that makes sense. I was about to say, like, the letter might get there after you get back from your 2-day trip if you're doing it by snail mail. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Once we had cell phones, yeah, my parents would be like, text us at least. And I'd be like, yeah, if I remember. I don't have a good memory of that. I mean, probably the best example of that was when I finally got my driver's license. And I had my car, because we got my car for my driver's license. And then the day I got my official license, I took my friend and her friend, and we just zoomed off in my car, and I didn't tell anyone. I'm old, so cell phones were limited. They existed, but they were limited. And when we came back from the movies and every place else that we went, my parents were like, we didn't know where you were. And I was just like, oh, yeah, we went to the movies. Sorry. Oh. Yeah, yeah, meeting online friends. Yeah, I've met online friends, but at like public venues. The first online friend I met, actually, the first few online friends I met were all at anime conventions. So I was going with a friend I knew who lived near me already, and then we would meet our friends there, and the friend's parents came with her. So there were parents, not my parents, but I was at an old enough age at that point that they couldn't really do anything about me going off to meet online people. And the same for the rest of the online friends that I've met in person. Like, I'm very much an adult now. My mother has no say on who I meet. She's on the other side of the country. She can't do shit. But I get especially when you're meeting online friends, and I suppose at any age, but yeah, parents would worry about that because you don't actually know who's on the other side of the screen. So they especially want to make sure, like, you're safe and not being, like, kidnapped. I'm pretty sure my mother thought I was going to get kidnapped at least 15 times in my life over the times. Okay. Morning came uneventfully, save the final warning from your family about how they deploy. Oh yeah, I read this already. Yep. Good. You agreed that you would call daily, but it didn't do much to dissuade the endless worrying. Liz didn't pull any punches either, least of all after your family helped you load your things into the back of Baxter's car. Yeah, I agree with that. Oh, especially out of the country. No, that was good. I mean, sending a text message doesn't take that much, so. Overprotective family. You are allowed to do literally anything in the world. And never disciplined. Ma and Liz pulled you into a hug as Mom shut the trunk with a click of finality before she joined in the squeeze. Oh my god. Don't forget that I'm watching him, Ryan. Uh-huh. I'll come get you if you need me to. Just say the word. Doesn't matter when, okay? I know. Yeah, they're a lot. Bit too much. It's like, seriously. Your family meant well, but it wasn't as if you could forget after the 900th time that they reminded you to call and check in with them. Liz snickered as the three of them continued to hold you in a crushing hug. Good. Well, if you know, then don't be surprised about what happens when you don't. I can't believe I'm going to get hunted for sport. She just beamed cheekily in reply, elbowing you in the ribs.
What a pickle.
Right. I trust Ryan to do their job, but Baxter... You'll be careful with... Oh my god. Child, won't you? Poor Baxter. You couldn't see what their faces looked like because of the way that they held you. However, you could hear the apprehension in Baxter's tense laugh.
I can do that.
Of course. You have my word, ma'ams. Seriously? Poor me and poor Baxter. A perfectly gentlemanly response from him as always. As you were freed, Baxter made his way to the passenger's side. He opened the door for you with a sweep of his arm. Bye. Moms and Liz waved you off and you slid into the car, shutting the door behind you. As soon as the seatbelts clicked, the engine roared to life. You reversed out of the driveway and rumbled away from your neighborhood to the freeway. The familiar sight of Sunset Bird eventually gave way to Prism Vista City, then to the open space between here and there. You couldn't smell the salt in the air anymore, and for a moment it felt odd to remember that there weren't beaches everywhere that you went, even in the same state. Seriously, like, okay, so because you could do the moments, like, at any point, like, the time frame in the summer gets really muddled. Like, everything seems like it happened within the first few days of meeting him, but summer's, like, a couple months long. So, I feel like a trip like this would have happened, like, maybe after you've known each other for, like, a month or so. Like, I feel like this is a month into this relationship. So, still not a long time, but longer than a few days, like everyone's, like, implying. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know. The radio set to classical music gave a nice backtrack to Baxter's storytelling of other trips he'd taken with his parents up to the Rocky Mountains. Those memories gave an idea of what to expect when you arrived at the cabin, even though he glazed over some of the details. He'd even mentioned odder experiences. One of which included getting chased around a river by what he and his family thought was a bear, but turned out to be a particularly chubby dog who wanted to be friends. The ride was as smooth as it could be, except for the occasional congestion of traffic. That was always the inevitable this time of year. Baxter wasn't the only tourist. Eventually, the massive freeways came down to 2 lanes as the elevation grew steeper and steeper. Roads cut through canyons, giving a scenic view. You still texted your friends and family between conversations and sightseeing until you lost signal. By the time you hit your first official checkpoint, it was late in the day. You stopped at a roadside diner for a bite to eat before finishing the last leg of the trip. You offered to drive, but Baxter waved it off. It was already enough that you came at all. Making conversation with you also made it less of a dull task, so he didn't mind. And maybe it was better that way. Since Baxter was renting it, if anything did happen, it'd complicate matters if he wasn't driving. After the short final stretch, the car rolled to a stop at the front of a massive log hotel. It towered over your head when you stepped out of the vehicle. Baxter handed the keys to the attending valet. The lodge was somehow both rustic and fancy at the same time. For an oversized wooden cabin, the doors had big, elaborate wrought handles that you were sure must have cost a pretty penny. It appears that we have arrived. Baxter rounded his side of the car with bags in hand, smiling comfortingly at you as you stood there empty-handed and staring at the building. Yep, words. Really? I thought we were making a pit stop. Oh, then you'll be shocked at the actual hotel. The steps are paved in gold. Are you serious?
No.
No, I am not. Oh, this is fancy. Log cabin hotel. You both carried your things into the lobby. You hadn't brought enough with you that you need to make a second trip. No, he's great. And after all that consternation... After all that consternation in his bedroom, Baxter had managed to shave everything he needed down to one bag and suitcase. The lobby was as big as the front of the building suggested. Light piano music tinkled in the background. An untraditional words, please work with me. An untraditional chandelier hung from the ceiling, sunlight shining through the glass doors and reflecting on the carefully cut stonework. One day I won't trip over words. Words are hard, okay? Words are also extra hard when your brain reads faster than your mouth can keep up with. A fireplace burned in the far end of the lobby, for whom you can only presume to be guests. But despite all the chairs and couches available for them, there was scarcely a soul. Are you? It's... Look, I appreciate and admire people who can read out things for a long period of time, or even a short period of time, without tripping over them. Like audiobook authors and some other people who stream visual novels. I don't know how they do it, because I'm constantly tripping over stuff. And words that I say, like, normally, but because I'm reading them and saying at the same time, suddenly my brain is, like, doing two different things at once, and now it's like, we don't know how to say that word anymore. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Oh. Theater? I mean, threaten could work too, to be fair. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure how well I am at talking slow either. I don't think I talk that fast. But at the same time, I wouldn't consider myself exactly a slow talker either, unless I'm like doing like really long pauses as I think. But I guess I'm medium tempo talker. I go faster when I read out loud, just because, again, it's my mouth trying to keep up with my brain, who's like, I'm reading here, but my brain is like here. So thank you. Oh, that happens. Talking is hard, words are hard. Language in general is just hard. Be better if we were all just like telepathic. Just think what we wanted to say. Although in my case, it would probably be a bunch of pictures. It'd be pictures with words on them. Seriously, it would be so much easier. Just like projecting what we want to say to each other, but then there'd be overlap because everyone would be projecting at once, and then whoever is getting all these people talking to them at once would just have a bunch of like stuff pushed into their brain, and that would probably be bad and cause headaches. But it would be easier. It wasn't cozy, not in the way that you expected it to be, given Baxter only described it as a mountain lodge. It was big and impressive, and even the stairwells seemed more fitting for a medieval castle than a homey cabin in the woods. Does this place actually exist in California? Or is it made up? Because I want to go to a medieval castle. Lodge, hotel. To one side, the front desk was occupied by staff who were busy with helping with a large party. With helping a large party? We may be waiting a while. Why don't we set these down? He tugged at the strap of the crossbody bag he had over his shoulder and lifted the suitcase in his hand, gesturing for you to follow to the nearest open seating area, which was all of them. It would be. Footsteps echoed in the cavernous room, and when your bags hit the ground, the sound of that did too. Baxter opted to set his bags in one of the chairs instead of sitting. He had been stuck in the car for so long. He didn't make a point of stretching his legs, though. Ostensibly, yes, because it would have looked overly casual for a man such as him.
What do you think?
So now that you've gotten a look, what's your opinion on our temporary abode? It's incredible. I couldn't have imagined it'd be like this. I think it's a little overdone. Honestly, I feel a little out of place. It sure isn't summer anymore. It's nice. You just shrugged in reply. It's incredible. I'm glad to hear it suits your taste. Oh yes, we're bougie. He turned his attention to the front desk, though the situation hadn't improved at all. There were no signs of it clearing up now or in the near future. Ryan, would you mind if I made a phone call? I'm considering making a call to my mother.
Honestly.
I do not often keep my parents appraised in my day-to-day life, but I do believe they would be glad to know I arrived at this secondary vacation. His gaze dropped to the floor as his hands idly sneaked into his pocket to fish out his phone. His formerly polite smile became crooked. I am not so bad a son that I cannot grant them that. Yeah, don't mind me. Thank you. It won't be more than a few minutes. Ah, and I'll have a chance to finally mention the lovely individual accompanying me. His teasing wasn't something to be missed, but it warmed your heart to know that Baxter considered your relationship meaningful enough to be mentioned even in passing to his parents. Officially withdrawing his phone, Baxter promptly brought up his contacts and made the call. A hand rested on his hip while the other held the device to his ear. His head craned back towards the high ceiling as he awaited the dial tone before a voice too soft for you to hear, but loud enough for you to register, greeted Baxter. Hello, Mother. It's nice to speak with you. We've arrived at the hotel. The drive went well. He glanced over his shoulder at you before lightly pressing his index finger to his lips, as if to hush you before you could think of saying something. You couldn't help but wonder if she caught on to the we, considering Baxter came to the state alone in the first place.
Yes.
Ah, yes. I have Ryan with me, my neighbor here. Of course, that is the greatest understatement of our relationship. They are quite special. Tell your mom I said hi, you whispered to Baxter. Hi, Mrs. Ward, you shouted. You waited patiently, not wanting to interrupt. Tell your mom I said hi. We're gonna whisper. His soft brown eyes lit up with a new warmth, having not expected you to take interest. Ryan says hello, Mother. He nodded as she said something in response to him. However, his attention didn't move from you. As the conversation continued on her end, he lightly covered his phone with his hand. She says hello too, Ryan. He smirked while his mother continued on in his silence. You weren't honestly sure that he was listening enough to have caught what she said. This was the closest approximation you'd ever gotten to the vague concept that was Baxter's parents. And it was such a small thing, watching as he spoke to one of them over the phone. It felt so radically different than it did with your other friends. You knew Kira and Mr. Holden, just like you knew Derek, Randy, and Terry's parents. All you heard about Baxter's parents, other than that they were educated and old-fashioned, was that they didn't mind sending Baxter off to Sunset Bird for the summer. They wouldn't see him this season, and so you wouldn't see them. You had to wonder if someday you get the chance to meet them, or speak to them directly. They are all very different. Which, I mean, makes sense. Because, like, not all parents are the same, so... But these are, like, radically different parents. Because some of them socialize. some of them don't. It's weird. Like, their only connection is basically that their kids hang out. Except for the neighbors. But it didn't seem like a priority for Baxter. You were only dating for a little while, though, so maybe it was enough to just let them know that you existed in the first place. After another few hmms and yeses, Baxter's attention shifted to the front desk, which was slowly being vacated by the previous group. Ah, Mother, this was lovely, but I do have to take my leave. Take care.
Oh, yes.
You too. And with only a brief goodbye, he hung up and pocketed his phone. He turned toward you, picking up his bag and suitcase. Shall we go and check in? Yeah. You trailed after him with your own luggage. The hotel receptionist smiled from behind a wide counter, her eyes somewhat weary from the day's work. You could relate to the exhaustion of dealing with a large mass of needy people, and sent a silent wish that the rest of her day would be uneventful. Good evening. The receptionist nodded, offering her own greeting and reply before asking if you were both checking in. Exactly, and I appreciate your insistence in doing so. The reservation should be for 2 rooms under Baxter Ward. Handing over his driver's license and credit card, the receptionist made quick work of their computer system and slid 2 pairs of plastic cards through a machine. You were going to be in room 194, and Baxter was going to have the room next to you in 193. I added words, but that's okay. It still made sense. She picked up a map and drew a few arrows and lines. You were directed to take a left and head up to the elevator or take the stairs to the 2nd floor. With keys and maps handed off, you and Baxter departed from the front desk. So, did you want to take the elevator or the stairs? You realized Baxter didn't immediately follow. You turned back to him as he caught up, gesturing for you to wait. He dug out one of his key cards and offered it to you.
Now.
Elevator. Here. It may not be necessary, but I would be happy to let you have it, in case. Sure, thanks, I'll take it. Thanks, Baxter, but I don't think we're not choosing that option. You accepted the room key wordlessly. You waved your hand at dismissal. Sure, thanks. Do you want one of my cards, too? You took out one of your own cards to exchange. Nope, we're just gonna give it to him. Baxter gratefully took your card in hand, pleased to have your good faith in the matter. Was I not gonna give him my room key? The executive decision was made to take the elevator up to the next floor, given all the bags. Truthfully, with only a night's worth of clothes and supplies, they weren't all that heavy. Which sentence? The keycard one? Wait, what was it? This one? When he took it? Or... I mean, that happens a lot. Half the time I read sentences and then I have to go back and read them again because I'm just like, wait, what does that say? Oh, when he first offered... Yeah. Okay. Yeah, some of the way they word things in this, especially with Baxter's tendency for posh language, can get a little confusing at times. And they get a little extra descriptive at times where I'm just like, oh. I mean, it's easy enough to go back and fix it. I do like that about this game, that you can, like, do a choice and then go back immediately and, like, pick something else. What was more, it was only a floor up. But they'd installed an elevator for a reason, hadn't they? It'd be a shame not to put their hard work to use. Yeah, at the beginning, the first time I played this game, I was like saving every 2 seconds until I realized I could just go backwards. So I was saving to go back to a moment like... Oh, I had so many saves. It's crazy. The halls of the hotel were wide. It was easy enough for 2 people to pass through beside each other, though you and Baxter had to sidestep to make room for others occasionally. As you approached the end of the path where your rooms sat beside one another, Baxter withdrew his keycard and held it against the digital lock with a fluid, practiced motion. Would it be alright if we were to meet later this evening? It was a long drive, and I, at least, am in no rush to hurry off to the next activity. You waved your hand to dispel any concerns, both real and imagined. Sure, that's fine. I'll see you soon.
Excellent.
Take care, neighbor. He winked, laughing as he disappeared inside of his room and shut the door with a click. Tapping your card against the lock, you followed suit. Damn, this is a nice room. The fuck? In comparison to the hotel foyer, the room was cozier. Not by much, but it was much less grand in scale. One wall was laid precisely with wooden planks. At the center of the room, the headboard of the single king-size bed was situated by some nondescript painting. It didn't seem cramped in part because of the glass doors that led out onto a balcony, and because of the nearby windows, which meant more light came into the room. It was bright even without the lamps on. Seriously. I mean, it's a fancy lodge. It would have a fancy room, but I didn't think we were getting 2 king-size bedrooms. He just said 2 rooms. That could be anything. But we get a room with a balcony? Unless every room in this hotel has a balcony. Sometimes they do that. Especially, like, resort locations. But still, it's a big-ass balcony. And I bet his room is the same. In the breeze of the quiet evening up in the mountains, the branches waved to say hello. Yeah, this seems like a very fancy place. Setting down your stuff, you started unpacking toiletries and clothes before searching for a plug at the nightstand for your phone charger. As you unpacked and the sun rays slipped further out of the room, it occurred to you that you also owed a call to your loved ones. Ugh. Any further delay would have led to officers busting down the door, and it was hand-carved mahogany. Maybe. It didn't take more than a couple clicks through your contacts to pull up Liz's number. She'd been one of the last people you were texting on your way up before the signal cut out in the first place. The phone rang for a second before your sister's voice came through the other line. There was an exaggeration to her tone, a sense of suspicion.
So?
Ryan, this better be you and not some impersonator. I'm on to you, Ward, if that is in fact your real name. Seriously! What is the point of this? Like, chill out! The fact of the matter is that most of the time, because she's not a focus, we don't know what the fuck Liz does. Liz is out there living her life. Parents not giving 2 shits about what she does with her life. She has all kinds of people that she knows and is allowed to meet. Like, at all ages. Why? Why? Like, get hobbies. Liz, how am I even supposed to prove that? J accused. This is what I get for calling. Yeah, exactly. She's only 2 years older than us. Like, it's not a lot. Guess we'll go with this one. Or that one. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Liz needs to get some romance to distract her.
No.
And how do I know that? I can't take you on your word. That's exactly what he would say about himself. I don't know how else to prove to you that I'm me, Liz. I do. What pattern was on my favorite, most special summer dress when we were kids? Sunflowers. There you have it. Proven. You're real. That... Mm-hmm. This is why I wanted them to add more discourse with the family into the game, because the fact that I have to put up with this as the MC and not, because I wouldn't put up with this in my real life. She sighed, and you could hear the muffled sound of her hair brushing against the phone. I should incorporate sunflowers into my look again. That dress was so cute. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. Look, fact of the matter is, for as suspicious as they are, and it could have been a suspicious situation, but honestly, calling or texting doesn't prove anything at the end of the day. Because they don't know what's actually going on the other side, unless you, like, video call. And this? Is this 2016? This one? This... Are we in 2016 right now? Maybe? I don't remember how much video calling was a thing then. Regardless of whenever this was. Moving on, I'm glad you got there safe and sound enough that you're keeping up with me. I still don't know about that Baxter guy. He's too formal and stiff for someone younger than me. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But let's not put more paranoia into the fucking family. We're gonna get locked up like freaking Rapunzel. I mean, which would actually work with Cove's storyline, since he likes to climb into our window so often. But I guess he got you there in one piece. How's the lodge? It's pretty incredible. I had no idea they even had hotels like this. There was a huge chandelier in the giant lobby, impressive doors, and...
Why?
Geez, sounds ritzy. What kind of mountain lodge has a chandelier? This kind. At least you're getting put up somewhere nice. Do they give out sparkling water too? I don't know. Your older sister listened with the intensity of someone still handling an interrogation. This will do. Just remember to have some fun for the rest of us, alright? Take pictures. Mom's already started asking why you haven't sent any. They want to see the inside of a car?
Right?
That's what I said. The conversation trailed on longer, Liz weighing in on speakerphone with what had been going on at home since you left. It's only been a few hours. Okay, it is 2016. I thought it was 2016. So yeah, there was video chat. Just not as fancy. She mentioned that Cove stopped by at some point to drop something off from his dad and told her to tell you that he said hi. Eventually, Liz tapered off, and at the mention of her own sleepiness, she helpfully reminded you to go and get some rest before adding that you needed to call her again tomorrow. The phone was promptly tossed aside in favor of preparing for the night. Then a gentle knock came at your door. Baxter, presumably. Baxter, correctly, as he was the only person standing there in the doorway once you opened it. Hi, come in. Bowing his head as he stepped inside, he offered a thanks for being quick with the invitation instead of making him stand in the hallway. Yeah, exactly. We're calling. It's fine. Reported in with the commander in charge. There will be no hunting tonight. Good. I'll remain on my best behavior to avoid drawing any sisterly ire. Yeah, don't worry too much about that red dot on your forehead. The curve of Baxter's smile widened while he took a quick look around your room. It couldn't be all that different from his own, but he regarded it as though it were.
So?
It appears that you've settled in quite nicely. It's late, so I won't keep you, but I did want to discuss our plans for tomorrow. Feel free to enjoy yourself in the morning without worrying about accommodating me. Yes, we know, morning Baxter. It should be easy to explore the town if you want, but the lodge has amenities you could also try if you're interested. There is a gym around, I believe, along with a pool and a complimentary breakfast if you're up early enough for it. As for the afternoon, evening, and night, I'd be pleased if we could spend it together. And night. Not hoping for a morning call from yours truly? Baxter didn't do early mornings, or mornings in general. It was no skin off your bones to let him sleep in, especially considering that this was supposed to be a vacation. Yeah. Oh, really, Baxter? Evening and night. Well, it was always a vacation for Baxter, but the rationale held. He was always so considerate of you that it stood to reason to do the same for him. He nervously ran a hand through his hair before a semblance of his Baxter Ward patented confidence returned to his features.
I appreciate the understanding.
I thank you for your consideration. As for what we'll do tomorrow, how would you feel about a hike? There's a lovely trail that starts directly from here. It loops up and around the forest at the back, then returns us to where we started. It's a bit of a longer path, so we could pack a lunch with us to take on the way. I can have it ordered and delivered ahead of time. So fancy. Loved hiking. Hiking could be good. You didn't mind the suggestion. I mean, it's already canon that we walk everywhere. And we're tall strong. So we love hiking. I don't love hiking in real life, but our character loves hiking. I don't like moving in general. I just want to float everywhere and teleport and float things to me. Yes. That kind of life. Let's do it. He smiled graciously. Baxter had his heart set on that outing clearly. You made his day by joining the adventure.
Goodbye for today.
I'll look forward to it then. With that, Baxter took his leave after offering a quiet good night. Oh. Oh, really? It actually ruined hiking for you? How many hikes did you go on then? Was it the type of hikes you went on? Or just the situation, or just too many? I mean, I don't know if I've ever hiked per se. I suppose it counts if I've gone on a trail. I've gone on a few trails. They were very short. Like, not like hour-long hikes. But I've done like some wood walking before. In my youth. A very long time ago. But I wouldn't quite consider that hiking. There were a few hours left before you had to be in bed, so you settled in for the first night of what continued to be a surreal experience. Oh, you never had the right bag? Ah, yeah, that would ruin it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess you need like those industrial like hiking backpacks things. I don't think they work with just like regular backpacks. You actually need like the fancy hiking ones if you're gonna do that. I've seen videos. I think I've seen some pictures of like scout equipment before. And yes, it looks very heavy. And I can barely lift 10 pounds, so when I look at that, I'm just like, ugh, I would break my arm. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that would have put, like, probably would have strained your back a little bit also. Yeah, yeah, they have to be the proper size for you. Otherwise, like, your whole equilibrium will just be off and you're probably straining muscles that you shouldn't be, especially when you're a kid. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Shoulder pain is rough when you're a kid. It's rough when you're older also. But, mm-hmm. No, that, I see why it ruined hiking for you. Although, given you are older now and you could probably get equipment that would fit you properly, you might be able to try it again if you ever felt like it. But I am not one to push anyone to do anything that they do not want to do. But I understand how that ruined it for you at the same time. Because now you just have phantom pains the whole time you think about it. Oh, I read that. It was spent peacefully, and then you were drifting into an equally gentle dream. Oh. Was there just no opportunity to get you a bag that would have been proper for your age and size then? Or not to pry? Like, I don't know your situation. So. Yeah, yeah. Not do like a hike, but like drive to a nearby forest and just walk a little. Maybe see if it still holds any appeal to you or not. If not, like, it's fine. Exactly. Good to get better memories of it, especially when you're now an adult and you have more control over the situation and of your own equipment, things that you bring, that sort of stuff, location, everything. Like, you would be in total control. If you're just not feeling it, you can just leave. Kind of thing. You're not stuck suffering through it. The sun peeked through the sheer curtains, the first part of the day, to greet you as you woke in a sprawling bed that wasn't your own. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh god, a week's worth of stuff. In the wrong size bag. For several oh god. I hated walking a mile around the track in high school. I can't imagine walking several kilometers. I mean, as I've said, I'm not active. And I never was. The early bird catches the worm. It was time to get up. Maybe a few more moments. Yeah. Honestly, for an extracurricular activity, if you start making up excuses on why you don't want to participate, it's best to just quit. Because then that means you're not getting the enjoyment out of something that's extracurricular and supposed to be enjoyable. Ironically, this is me. So we're just gonna get up, because that's what I do when I wake up. I get up. You hopped to your feet and you went through your morning routine, all the while considering the possibilities for your alone time. Baxter wouldn't be meeting up with you until around the afternoon. Your growling stomach made the decision for you. The first thing on your agenda was getting breakfast. By the time your hunger was sated, Baxter hadn't contacted you. It's still before noon. He's not up yet. Yeah, I think being able to get up in the morning and being a morning person are two different things. Like, I just get up when I wake up. So, I don't think that technically qualifies me as a morning person. I don't like getting up, and I'm tired throughout the entire day. But it's just one of those things that when I wake up and my body decides we're up for the morning, we're just up. I'm awake. Still takes me a while to get to 100%, but like not like morning Baxter style. It's just more of a, I like to sit for a while, let my body slowly come up while I look at the internet. And then I'm like, and I can't eat when I first wake up either. I have to wait a couple hours at least. Especially when I get up really early. If I had to get up really early, it's better now that I get up at like 8-ish. I can usually eat around 9. When I used to get up at like 6 in the morning for school or like work, I used to work in a bakery where my shift started at 2 a.m. So in that case, I wasn't eating until 10 a.m. because I just couldn't eat the entire time I was working. When I would get up for school at 6 a.m., which was really inconvenient, I wasn't actually hungry until 10 a.m. again. So I had to force myself at like 7-ish whenever I got to school to like eat something. And I had a very bad diet in high school, so that was usually like a cookie or a bag of chips. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can lie in bed if I'm doing something. Like if I'm on my phone or something like that. Then I can lie in bed. I can't just lie in bed. Unless I'm sleeping. Like if I'm in bed, I'm sleeping. But if I'm just lying in bed, then I'm getting up. Because then my mind is active, and then my brain is going through a million different things, and then I feel like I need to do things. So. Ooh, a trainee. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Trainee like job trainee, or trainee like athlete trainee? What kind of trainee? There's different kinds. Job trainee, yeah, I get that too. My work shift is technically a job trainee. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anytime I have to slightly do job training for my job, get trained in a different area, it's always at a different shift than what I actually work. Because I work like afternoon to like evening shift, which is called swing shift in my job. So, yeah, that's always rough. Okay, so we head back to our hotel room, see the entire building, gym, pool, left the hotel to see what was nearby. Oh, I don't know. Ooh, what to do? Oh. You hate butter? I've never met anyone who hates butter. Fair, though, but like, I understand that. I don't have it with butter, but I do get gag reflexes from smells of other things. Mostly bananas and tuna fish. like canned tuna fish, both of those, weird, I know, but both of those give me that same reflex. But butter, wow. Any kind of butter? Can you not have dairy? Or is it just butter that you have a reaction to? Because that could just be your body being like, we don't like this in general, kind of thing. Like, what if you had, like, not dairy butter, alternate butter? Because I have a friend who has a... Oh. Okay. Interesting. My friend can't have butter either. She has a... not a lactose allergy, but a dairy allergy in general. Like, it's a protein in dairy, and butter gives her the worst reaction. But she can have, like, alternate butter. But yeah, butter is really fatty, though. And given... I don't know where you're located, also, and you don't need to dox yourself. But given some of the things you said, I'm assuming it's not America. And so your butter would also be very different than our butter here. I know butter elsewhere can be a lot heavier and a lot fattier also. Candy cream, yeah. So it might be a slight dairy sensitivity that just manifests itself in a no butter, no cream kind of way. I have a lactose sensitivity, but that doesn't stop me from eating ice cream. Or cheese, to a degree. You just suffer. Okay, so we're gonna go... I have to actually make a choice. I've lessened the amount of cheese I eat and lessened the amount of ice cream I eat. But every now and then I still get like... And there is like lactose-free ice cream and dairy-free ice cream out there. It's not the same. Sometimes I just treat myself to having real ice cream and deal with the bloat. And cheese, I have it like on stuff. I don't really eat like just slabs of cheese now. That's basically where my cheese adjustment went to. We're going to the fucking pool. That's where we're going. It didn't seem swimming would be a likely possibility up in the mountains, but you were glad that you brought your gear anyway. After making the trip to your room to get your things, you were able to find the pool. In retrospect, you didn't know how you missed it. The chlorine hit you before you even stepped into the room. Out before you stretched what looked to be an Olympic-sized pool, its water sparkling with cleanliness. I mean, fair. We always had Parmesan in my house. My mother's Italian, so we always had a huge block of Parmesan, so I did not have to go to the market to get some of that. I could just eat it whenever I wanted. And I did, a lot of times. My tolerance for cheese was much better at that point. Damn age. It wasn't in your best interest to go for a serious swim, having just eaten and about to go on a hike later that afternoon, so you waited around in the shallow end. Oh, I'm sure. A good chunk of Parmesan Reggiano is really nice to have. I kind of miss having that in the house, but I wouldn't use it enough to warrant actually buying that anymore for myself. Because I just wouldn't eat it or cook it, and it would just go bad. But, yeah. By the time 11 rolled around, your phone buzzed with a new text from Baxter. Oh my god, he's up before 12. It was as formally worded as ever. Good afternoon, Ryan. I'll be ready for our hike shortly. I hope the amenities were to your liking. Awesome. I'll get ready too. And yeah, choices, choices, choices. This place has a lot going on. Seriously, up at 11? It's so early. You're doing so well, Baxter. You're up before most of my friends right now. Wonderful. I've always enjoyed how responsive you are. I will be ordering lunch in the interim. I thought sandwiches might suit our activities for the day. It should be easy to bring along and fine to eat cold. I would advise straying away from the paninis for that reason. I'll send along the menu shortly. Let me know what you prefer. Technically, I was up before him today, but I just get up early. As promised, Baxter attached a perfectly formatted PDF with said options, which seemed increasingly more complex the lower you scrolled down the menu. There were options for next to everything: what bread, what fillings, what cheeses, what spreads. It was enough to make you forget what was available in a category as soon as you moved from one selection to another. Seriously, he's so formal and posh. Like, he's just so... rich boy things. But you hastily made your decision with the seconds still ticking by and texted your order to Baxter, who replied with a blushy, smiling emoji. An excellent choice. I'll be waiting in the lobby for the delivery then. Make your way down there as soon as you're able. Take care. After sending off that last text, you tucked your phone away and hurried to your room. Yeah, exactly. So awkward. He's like, nope, I'm totally cool and mysterious. See my flowery language? That's how mysterious I am, and cool. Did I mention cool? I'm cool. Good shoes were a must when it came to hikes, along with a full water bottle. With the weather and time of day being what it was, you hoped you might catch the last dregs of the cool morning air before the afternoon really set in. Once you were satisfied you had everything you need, you returned to the front of the hotel. The lobby was as cavernously vacant as ever, so it wasn't hard to find the back of a distinct head of black and white hair near the fireplace with a bag of what were pointedly sandwiches. Yet you were certain it wasn't Baxter. It couldn't have been. Sure, his shoes were black, the pants were dark gray, he had a gray bag too, which all erred to the side of monochromatic, but the shirt, his shirt, oh god. Oh! That man was wearing khaki? Oh, he is some khaki? He's not monochrome! Oh no! It was as if you found a cryptid in the flesh. You never thought that you'd see the day where Baxter Ward was wearing a color that wasn't, well, that he was wearing any color at all. Is khaki actually considered a color? I feel like it's still in that neutral zone. I know he is powder. Also, do khaki and gray go together? Maybe? Kinda. Of course, you knew it wasn't actually a stranger with the same unique hairstyle and his body type, but it was hard not to joke about it. Baxter turned at the sound of your footsteps. Ah, Ryan. He grinned, jaw tense. Baxter probably would have been more comfortable trotting around the lobby in nothing more than his presumably black and white underwear. He was the guy that described skinny dipping as invigorating, after all. I didn't know beige was a new shade of black and white. The teasing edge to your voice did nothing to add any levity to the situation, as Baxter looked for a change, truly embarrassed by the situation. Yeah. Khaki's a hard color to pair in general just because of the beige greenness of it. So unless you pair it with like other beige or like green, it's always gonna look a little off. To me. I don't know fashion very well. Or color theory. That's how it looks to my eyes. He took a deep breath. A very deep breath. With his eyes closed and his hand unintentionally tightening its grip around the bag, his answer finally came out in the same exhale. I only brought one shirt that was suitable for a hike with me on this trip. I'd been certain I wouldn't need more than that. He looked away, hand brushing through his hair again as he worked to find the words. After you left, I found this among my things. Baxter grimaced. He looked at the errant shirt as if he'd been hit with a splash from a mud puddle. And regrettably, I did not find anything else. This is the shirt I brought for outdoor activities. The fates would have it that I only found out when there was no time to run out and get a replacement. Thus leaving me with a few remaining options. A formal button-down, one of my designer tops, silk pajamas, or he gestured to the khaki shirt with both finality and defeat. So you own it? Yeah. Baxter shook his head emphatically. The light in his eyes betrayed his expression with some delight that at least you found his misfortune entertaining enough to prod at.
Never.
No, I suppose I must have accidentally stolen it from a roommate. I don't know who else would own a khaki button-down, other than that prep. My memories of the final pack at dawn before I set out to California are hazy, to say the least. I had believed at the time that I took a pale gray sturdy cotton shirt for occasions like this. The low lighting and my waning focus in the moment betrayed me. Of course, Morning Baxter struck again. Also, he suggested hiking, knowing this is the shirt he was going to have to wear. Yes. Sighing, he straightened the thieved attire. If he was going to be unpresentable, it should at least be decently so. The sandwich bag fell against his hip as his eyes met yours. I must ask that you keep this a secret, Ryan. Your secret's safe with me, BAW. Sure, but just know I'll be saving this info as blackmail. You shrugged noncommittally in reply. Come on, it's not that bad. Beige really isn't your cover. Admitting to theft with your own mouth? You could get arrested for that. Exactly. I'm surprised he did that too. Sure. Just know I'll be saving this info as blackmail. He snorted, though the tension in his forehead relaxed at the suggestion.
Thank you.
At least you are considerate enough to call it blackmail. As unhappy with his predicament as he was, there was something undeniably sweet about the fact he hurried to make it at the risk of keeping you waiting. The collar of his shirt was crumpled, and parts of it were wrinkled, likely from the hasty packing after he finally discovered the horrible mistake. The latter couldn't be fixed without an iron, but at least the collar could be smoothed over. You reached out instinctively to fix it, incidentally brushing gently against the side of his neck as you straightened out the crease. Spicy! Pale skin flushed with sudden warmth, pinking as your fingertips fell against the hollow of his throat. His Adam's apple bobbed, his breath hitching in his throat. Okay. Little plushies. Little plushies. His embarrassment managed to ease into laughter. Baxter covered his mouth to stifle the chuckles that echoed through the empty foyer. You tried your best to keep from cackling any more than you already did at his poor, beige-influenced expense.
Well,
Regardless of what color I may be wearing. Beige. He raised an eyebrow before directing a pair of rolled eyes your way. Right. We should still be able to continue with our plans. It isn't as though anyone will see me in public like this. Who will the trees tell? Nobody. But remember, I'll always know it happened.
you know.
Contrary to belief, my ego will endure. Besides what? He turned to face you then as the first genuine smile you've seen out of him all day curved on his lips. His free hand fell solemnly on your shoulders by comparison and gave it a gentle squeeze. No one will ever believe you. Shaking your head, you adjusted the straps of your bag on your shoulders. We have a phone. We could take a picture. Okay, if you're done. Baxter gave you a world-weary glance as if to say he was already greatly limiting how much he could have gone on about it. We can head on out. Let's. He packed away the sandwiches into the bigger, properly gray bag, truly ending his lament about the state of his attire. Good morning, Kobe. Did you just get up again? Once he was certain the food was not liable to be flattened, Baxter gestured for you to follow him out of the hotel and onto the nearby trailhead behind the building. The path initially was paved and clearly marked. As you continued at a leisurely pace, it eventually narrowed into a larger swath of evergreen trees and beaten ground. Oh, good. It is nice. Oh, really? Oh. Bet Ro was very happy to get, like, 35 minutes of cuddling. How did you math? The mountain air was sharper than the sea breeze you were so used to. Instead of salt, you could smell the pine in between the waifs of liberally applied sunscreen. With a pleasant breeze and a coolness drawn from a stream, the weather was more than ideal for a hike. Tree boughs provided cover, too, hiding you both from the high afternoon sun. I mean, I don't know if this actually exists. Supposedly it's in California somewhere. But, again, I'm assuming since they said it in California, there's a part of California that does actually look like this. And we supposedly didn't go too far from where we are, so it's still Southern California? Okay. You say this a lot. What beach town are we moving to? Yeah, I think so. Probably. I just don't know. Like, the most I've seen close to this is Northern California at the Muir Woods, but that's like the Muir Woods, so okay, we'll figure it out. As long as my job says I could still have my job if I move, then, you know, I work from home anyway. Even though I hate the beach, but, you know, I'll deal. I don't have to go on the beach. Did I read this? With a pleasant breeze and coolness drawn from a stream, the weather was more than ideal for a hike. Tree boughs provided cover too, hiding you both from the high afternoon sun. Yeah, you'll do the beaching. Foliage rustled at your feet as your shoes kicked up the fallen turf. The path wasn't as big for you to walk side by side, so Baxter took the front. After some prolonged silence, he spoke up.
Perfect.
Kobe, look, he's in khaki. We just had a whole moment about this, but like, in conversation, about how I accidentally packed a khaki shirt. The khaki. I'm glad that this trail matches what I saw online. It seemed like an easy hike, as it lacks steep inclines. The path ahead is clear. Yeah, it's been nice so far. That's too bad. A more invigorating trail would have been great. What a relief. I was worried you were going to pick something harder. That's not really a hike. It's more of a scenic stroll. I mean, it is a scenic stroll, but it's also been nice. So that's not really a hike. It's more of a scenic stroll. If you'd enjoy, you could power walk the rest of the way. His suggestion came as a joke, Baxter's smile tucking into the dimple in his cheek. Then it'd be more of a scenic jog. An improvement, wouldn't you say? But look at Mr. Mountaineer over here. Do you hike a lot? He turned his gaze up to the tree canopy, considering the question for a moment, as leaves crunched underfoot and the path sloped uphill. I don't go often, but I am quite used to it, if that's the question. I'm not sure if I'd consider it among my personal hobbies, but I'm not adverse to it.
I love it.
I welcome the opportunity, in fact, when it is available. That makes a lot of sense if you got a hiking shirt and everything. That's really shocking. Are you sure you're really Baxter? Me too. It's cool that we have that in common. I honestly wouldn't have figured that. You gave him a supportive thumbs up in reply. No, we're totally saying that makes a lot of sense if you got a hiking shirt and everything. Even if you accidentally left it behind. Baxter hummed along, content that you understood where he was coming from. Though I would not call myself a mountaineer proper. He chuckled, stopping in place at a partial ascent. Baxter glanced over his shoulder at you and watched for any signs of difficulty with your footing. I may be fit to impress on a day hike similar to this, but I knew some people who truly could call themselves wilderness aficionados. The types that you could see in a reality survival show, I'd wager, in the Alaskan wilds, fighting a bear for salmon. You paint such beautiful pictures with your words. Thank you. I'm speaking of the Murrays, the parents and their 2 teens who would regularly go on backpacking trips that would last days, and they'd sleep outside in the middle of the woods.
Certainly.
What's more, they enjoyed rappelling down cliff sides. Certainly they had safety gear, but I can't fathom willingly going to such degrees. Or rather, it might be more apt to say that I can't imagine surviving them. Baxter continued on about some of the Murrays' exploits and a little of his own reservations about anything else under the sun, including scuba diving. Though you had plenty to say about that between Mr. Holden's entire business and living so close to the ocean. Do we know the Murrays? Can we meet the Murrays later? Is that why we're saying, oh, the Murrays? Oh. But it wasn't long before you decided to stop for lunch. It had already been a few hours since you had breakfast, and Baxter hadn't eaten anything yet for the day. Not here. Okay. Gotcha. There weren't picnic tables along the path, so the task fell to you to find somewhere to take a break. It happened to be the case that you saw a nice and sunny spot with some nice flat rocks first. How about we take a lunch break over there? Following your raised arm, Baxter eventually nodded in agreement. The two of you headed over to the stones and shrugged off your packs. After digging through his bag's contents, he produced the 2 sandwiches and handed over yours. The sound of crinkling beeswax paper unwrapping announced the start of lunch. Baxter already made it abundantly clear that he didn't do water activities. Most of them, at least. But it struck you that he probably never tried one of the premier aquatic sports that mark this oceanfront state of yours. Hey Baxter, what do you think about surfing? He was about to take another bite out of his sandwich when you posed the question, and merely snickered when it finally registered. I know you wouldn't do it yourself, but maybe you enjoy watching? It is quite a feat, I must admit. Did I ever tell you my ma used to surf all the time? She doesn't do it often anymore, but... And though he wasn't interested in trying, Baxter did pay attention to everything you said about surfing to the T. Enough to merit asking follow-up questions, at least. While stuffing your face, keeping up a conversation fell off the list of priorities. Baxter followed your lead and dedicated himself to his own sandwich. Real silence was avoided thanks to the delightful world around you. The rustle of leaves, the bubbling of water, even a small songbird flitted by overhead before landing on a nearby branch. It seemed to stare directly at you and chirped. Probably wanted a sandwich. It was so picturesque that it belonged on a postcard. For the mundane activity of eating lunch, it was almost too much. Could one be overtly serene? Overly serene. Not overtly. Overly. I can't believe we're really here. Why are you eating sandwiches in the middle of a mountain? Thanks for letting me come here with you. I'm really glad we're here. This is kind of weird. You silently reflected. Thanks for letting me come here with you.
Of course.
Of course. I'm all too happy that you accepted my invitation. He polished off his sandwich first, then wiped his fingers on a paper napkin. He had been certain to pack those. Perhaps I am being fanciful, but this feels almost dreamlike. You understood where he was coming from. Up on this mountain, your everyday life felt so far away. It was far away. You traveled for miles to be here. This time you both were far from home and in the middle of the unfamiliar. It was nature's domain, untamed in a different way than your experiences with the ocean. Yeah, I think I get it. It doesn't seem to fit with what I normally do when I'm awake. Baxter reached out and grabbed a leaf from the ground, twirling it around with his fingers. Exactly. As you worked on finishing your own lunch, a heavyweight dropped on your shoulder. After a beat, you realized it was just Baxter leaning on you, apparently having finished lunch and making himself comfortable. His eyes were closed, dark lashes especially apparent against his cheekbones, and lips parting softly with quiet breaths. For a second, you wondered if he fell asleep again until he spoke up, as if already aware of the fact that you wanted to ask. This is nice. It wasn't much of an answer, though he did crack an eye open to look up at you from his perch. Yeah, it is. He closed his eye again, this time burying his cheek a little closer into the hollow between your shoulder and your head. Making moves. Are you tired? Baxter considered the suggestion for a second, then nodded slowly against your shoulder. If it'll let me stay a while, yes. All right.
Thank you.
Why, thank you.
You know.
So smooth. That was the equivalent of the yawn and stretch so you could put your arm around someone. You know? No, he's not. The forest that I grew up with had different foliage. At least 60% of the plants growing here only exist in this climate. Oh, really? Is that true? That doesn't sound real. No way. How interesting. You listened without saying anything. Oh, really? How did Baxter happen to have that fact memorized? Maybe he studied before this trip. Although with him, it was not outside the realm of possibility that he knew beforehand just 'cause. Baxter's expression twitched. If that wasn't suspicious, then at least 60% of your observational power was wrong. Under your scrutiny, he shrugged and finally answered your question.
No.
He grinned like the Cheshire Cat, self-satisfied and smug. His eyes glittered with amusement. I entirely made that up off the top of my head. Seriously? He's going, yeah. That's cool. I'm smooth. Yeah. So mysterious. Baxter's trolling. Also, hello. Welcome. Baxter always trolls. Although, since I know nothing about California wildlife, it may reflect reality after all. Probably not, but I can't rule it out completely. You laughed at his nonsense. He was so blunt about it. At your mirth, his grin grew wider, and he regaled you with other fake nature facts. He spoke about the California mountain hare, the only North American rodent that ate a large diet of bees, and was entirely made up by a man who normally dressed in monochrome. But the meal was over by that point, and you did have a trek ahead before you could return to the hotel. Seriously, that is the dialogue going on in his head. Baxter separated himself from your shoulder, perky as ever. Trash and scraps were thrown into the delivery bag. Baxter stuffed it into his normal bag.
Good.
Leave no trace. Yeah, we can't have it hurting those 60% of plants that may or may not only be found here. With everything stowed away, the two of you slid off the rock and rejoined the path. I mean, probably also true. Yeah. Look, everyone in this world has issues. They're all issue-filled. So many issues. Both you and Baxter were fully recharged from the lunch break. You continued the hike steadily, keeping a good pace. Without warning, Baxter rooted himself in the middle of the path. Oh, look at that. He jerked his head and you followed his gaze. Further out on his side of the trail was the stream, flowing swiftly. But you immediately knew what part of the scene caught his attention. Laying across the banks, a tree had fallen to create a natural bridge. You stepped around him to get a better vantage point. I would say at this point, considering the DLCs, all three of the love interests have the most issues. In very different ways, but they are the ones with definitely the most issues. The trunk had to be 3 feet thick, covered in vibrant green moss. Leaves had long fallen from the few remaining branches. Yeah, it does make sense that way. Oh, you're right, Mr. Holden also. That is also a bundle of issues there. Moss does mean slippery. It's me! Oh my god, am I gonna trip myself? So, oh yeah, we have a running gag in shows that we watch whenever someone's in the woods and they trip over a log, that the log is me. That's just me tripping them in the forest. You won't get it unless you've actually been a part of the conversation, but that's what we're talking about right now. Baxter's bright eyes stayed on it, and he grinned all the while.
Exciting.
1 minute, please. I need to walk across that. It's too perfect to simply pass on by. He took a large step and promptly left the path. A twig snapped. Wait, what? Oh my god, you shouldn't leave the trail. Yes, I want to do that too. You followed after him. You stared in disbelief. We're bold and stupid in this playthrough, so we're gonna do yes, I want to do that too, and just fall into the river with him.
Glad to hear it.
Then follow me. Let us proceed on our fortuitous adventure. He slowed down so you could catch up. He led the way to the stream, warning you off of the various obstacles he dodged on the forest floor. Finally, he skipped over some stones and then squeezed himself between a group of thick bushes. His efforts were surprisingly graceful. You clambered on the rocks behind him and took a moment to assess the bushes yourself. Going all the way around would be a hassle. There was a small gap under one of the bushes, but unless you were prepared to crawl, you didn't think you'd fit. You followed Baxter's path, lightly bending a few of the branches out of your way. You got through it without any scratches. Now, though, the gauntlet. Seriously? It's all planned out perfectly in his head. Reality is probably going to go very differently. He's like, ah, yes, another way to show off how cool and romantic I am. This close to the stream bank, it was mostly more stones and short grasses. Oh, he's over here now. Baxter solidly placed a foot on the trunk suspended over it. He tested his weight, then rocked his heel to shake the bridge. The tree gave no sign of giving under pressure. No matter what he did, it wasn't budging.
Excellent.
The safety check complete, he gingerly lifted his other foot and stood fully on the collapsed trunk. Even if it was stuck, the wood had to be slick. Wet and round weren't an ideal combination. Your forehead crinkled. Baxter showed no concern for that and walked further along an inch at a time until he was above the water. One wrong move and he'd be in that river. Enthusiastically climb, carefully climb. Okay, we bold, but we careful at the same time. We're gonna carefully climb on. Carefully. We could enthusiastically, but I feel like... could carefully climb on. First you sat down, then pulled up your feet. The damp bark was unpleasant, especially on your knees, as you first crouched. However, when you stood up, the tree stayed firm. You breathed a sigh of relief. He went across the stream with his arms out and light steps, heel toe, heel toe. It was almost like he was floating on air, his movements smooth and assured. That dance. Seriously! He has danced her grace. Okay, real life would be this. But we strong athletic type, so we're not having trouble. You shimmied along after Baxter with confidence. The tree was more scared of you than you were of it. The tree is dead? When the moss grew thick over the trunk, it squished underneath your shoe. However, it was firmly attached, and your foot never slipped. But moss is slippery. Seriously. Ah, yes. Dead trees shake in fear of me. Yes, the dead tree is so scared of me. I'm horrifying. Tree is shaking right now. As long as you didn't falter, you'd keep your balance. The log was large enough that even with how round it was, you had plenty of room. When you reached the halfway point directly over the heart of the stream, Baxter paused.
Is that fine?
Sorry to block the path. Can we take a minute here? Sure. He twisted, pivoting his feet so he'd face the water. You'd copied him and breathed in the beauty. Together you stood on top of a fallen tree as the stream flowed right underneath. The water was clear. Tiny fish darted in and out of hiding places. It was its own little universe, tucked away at the top of a mountain. Oh, we're holding his hand. You took hold of him, and he squeezed you back. Oh. Spicy choices. Of course you know which one I'm doing. And you kissed him on the lips. You leaned in closer to him, careful of both of your positions on the tree bridge. It wouldn't do to smooch your boyfriend off a tree. He tilted his face towards you, giving you perfect access to your target. You kissed him on the lips, much to his delight. He kissed you back sweetly, before pulling away with a smile. Too short. I am quite grateful for my impeccable balance in cases like this. Yeah. Well, it's their personality, also. Cove is just a bundle of blushes. Derek blushed a lot, too, actually. He blushes, but he's a little bit more bold in his own movements, so... kind of takes things as they come. And I always give them high initiative, so... they're a little bit more accepting with that. Yeah, ultimately Derek is a very ideal best friend, but I did his DLC, the full romance path, and it was pretty satisfying going that way too. So, I wasn't dissatisfied by the romance part of that. But a lot of it is written for him to be friend-zoned very easily also. Which I think made me more determined on the romance aspect of it. So... but it is a very different situation. Yeah. Are you really gonna tell me that stuff like this happens to you regularly? I'm not gonna tell you anything other than, well, you'd be surprised. He flashed a mischief-filled grin. Oh. I haven't finished Baxter yet either. That's what I'm doing now. And I didn't play it off stream, so. But Baxter was the one I really wanted to romance before either of the DLCs came out. So I'm more excited for this one, but I was satisfied overall with the Derek one. Yeah. Obviously, I'm doing full romance Baxter. I haven't done Fawn Baxter. And I didn't do Fawn Derek either, to be fair. I should go back and do Fawn Derek. At this point, I'm learning to accept whatever from you. It's easier that way. Oh, really? Yay long. So long. I know. Baxter is so long. This could take a while because I can't read for 6 hours straight. Cove Wedding DLC is pretty long. Yeah. I mean, on one hand, that's nice because it's a lot of content. I didn't feel Derek's stuff was too short, but I guess it was faster to get through. Yeah. Well, he uses, like, more words in a sentence than most of the other characters, so it has to extend out.
Good.
You considered asking for more details, but doubted that he'd elaborate. Suddenly, there was a splash in the stream below. A ripple spread across the water, but the cause of it remained a mystery. There was nothing to be seen. Baxter restored his attention to the log. He tapped on the trunk, kicking off a loose remnant of bark. We don't actually need to go all the way across. Nothing particularly enthralling is over there. I really liked Derek's family dynamic and learning about that. So I don't think I minded either of those two. I don't think I felt like they were too long. I know what you mean about them, though. My main issue with... Well, step 2, you're young. So I understood it more, but with all the step 2 moments... Because his family was so involved in most of those moments, that it became more about Derek and his family than actually you and Derek. That was my only issue with the step 2 moments. But it also makes sense because you're both just 13 years old at that point. But still, I would have liked to have a few more quote-unquote romantic moments in step 2. But that was my only complaint about Derek's step 2. Because I really liked his family and the stuff like that. I really liked Boardwalk. I don't remember... I think Responsible was when we were babysitting. Oh, yeah. I don't think there are. But who knows? I didn't do that either, so I don't know.
Bravo.
I've enjoyed our little tryst very much, but I believe this is the curtain call. Alright. You led the charge off the tree, Baxter's hand warm in yours. You both kept each other grounded until you actually reached the ground. As a joke, you pretended to kiss the ground. Thank goodness we didn't fall. That was magical. That was magical. Oh, really? Does he? Look, Cove is the master of silent judging, okay? He always does that. It truly was fantastical. Remember how at lunch I mentioned that this is all reminded me of a dream? Up above the rushing water, standing in a sunbeam, deep in the woods, I cannot imagine a more picturesque scene. Back to the trail. You nodded and started squeezing your way past the vegetation in your way. Baxter followed you for a change. Oh. Oh, I remember those times. Does a microwave interrupt your Wi-Fi or internet connection in general? Probably Wi-Fi. If you're hard wired in, I don't think it would interrupt it as much. Years ago, years and years and years ago, my old the house I lived in with my parents at the beginning, when our microwave went off, it would interrupt the Wi-Fi. Liz had some good moments in Derek's step 2, but I didn't need that either. Because me, personally, I don't like Liz that much. So, but she had some good moments in step 2 Derek that I did like seeing. So, it was nice. I didn't need more moments of Liz in the Cove moments, in all honesty. But I know not everyone has the same, you know, aversion to her that I do. Yeah, she's entertaining sometimes, but other times, like, I wish we could just tell her to, like, fuck off. But, you know, can't do that in this game or the story. That's not the relationship you have, so. And that's me, personally reacting to her rather than whatever MC character I'm playing in the story. So sometimes it's hard to get that separation. Finally, the path was under your feet. It sure was faster than trekking directly through the overgrowth. On we go. As your hike resumed, Baxter's jaunty attitude stood out. This entire trip had seemed different, more lighthearted. Usually, when he was in a playful mood, it was more teasing. He was still very controlled. But out here, now, it wasn't the same. Yes! I love the Father's Day thing with Mr. Holden. I love Mr. Holden. Like, literally, anytime those choices come up that say, like, he's annoying or something, I'm like, who would find that man annoying? I love him so much. Like, no matter what relationship I have with Cove, that is my daddy right there. That's my father. Like, I love that Father's Day thing. Like, Exactly. He grows so much as a person, and it's just... Ooh. Yeah, so do I. I always do that too. Maybe because he was in the middle of nowhere, he felt extra free. Or maybe it was because he had already broken character with his unintentionally stolen shirt. Or, and this was the strangest possibility to consider, maybe it was entirely normal for him to act like this and you didn't know. Gradually, it grew darker and darker. Less light made it through the canopy of leaves above you. The sun slipped behind the surrounding mountains. It was well into evening when you caught sight of the hotel. Ah, we have arrived.
To be honest.
Honestly, I'm having many regrets. His tone was light and jokey, but there was something boldly truthful to his words. I should have reserved the rooms for much longer. Everything is ending much too soon for my taste. Oh, yeah. Is that reflection? That whole moment, that's the one where... You're talking about the one where Cove wants to go jet ski riding again, and it brings up all the issues between his parents and how he feels responsible and their divorce and stuff. That one, right? I think that's reflection. Yeah, that one. That one, it depends on the kind of mood I'm in if I'm going to read all that dialogue again. The first couple times, I read it all because the story is just really good. But if I'm, like, just focusing on relationship with Cove kind of thing, then I kind of... Sometimes I skip that moment because it's too dialogue heavy. But that is really a good moment to get, like, background and all that stuff. I know. Yeah, well, he has an image. He has a monochrome image to portray. Khaki doesn't fall into that category. Yeah, no. The first time I played it with the right set of conditions, it was really good. The first time I played it in general, I didn't hit enough of those really close moments. And so I got the story, but it wasn't as personal. Because that scene changes depending on where you are and what moments you've had before. Like, you get different amounts of information. You're still privy to all of it, but I don't remember what was different because I've played it so many times. But I know there was one time that I just got, like, the perfect playthrough, and I got all the sweet moments, and I think it was when we started dating when we were, like, 13. So I think we were dating at that point, in that moment. So because of that, it made that moment a little extra special, and there were a few other things that happened that were a little bit different. And I really liked that one. Because then you weren't just like an observer. You were still an observer, but you were a little bit more of a part of it. I did every single variation because I wanted all the achievements. He rubbed a hand through his hair, exhaustedly sweeping it back into place. However, at this point, there's no helping it. Live and learn, Baxter. You return to the warm lights of the lobby, the plush red carpet squished in a strangely decadent way compared to how gross you felt from tromping around the woods all day. Baxter halted you mid-stride with a question. What are your plans now? Yes. Yes. I did indifferent throughout the first 3 steps. Step 4, instant love. So satisfying. I don't remember if we got to married, though. That part I don't actually remember about. We might not have gotten to married. Maybe we did. I don't remember. No, we did get to married. That's right. I needed to play step 3 on indifferent because I needed the achievement. See where... It is very funny, but it's also so satisfying when you do that indifferent to love and then marriage, like, right away. It's so great. You hadn't thought that far, but Baxter didn't pause long enough for you to answer. If you are willing, we could eat dinner together. For example, I have heard the room service here is divine. Room service. Oh, I see. I see what you did. No, I committed. I did the whole thing. We could also go somewhere else, but I'd require a few moments to change. Room service is fine. I've always wanted to get room service. I don't mind hiding away from public with you. You gave him a thumbs up. You should. If you like Cove, and I would assume you do if you're playing this game at all, indifference is hard. I didn't do step 4 indifferent, so that is the one thing I didn't do because I went straight to love. So I might do step 4 indifferent at some point, but that means I have to play through all the other ones with indifferent again, and that's... Wow. Well, that makes sense because of indifferent. I've always wanted to get room service.
That's wonderful.
That's the spirit. He beamed at your choice. Baxter really preferred the room service option. Your excitement swelled. Room service had always sounded so luxurious. Hopefully it was as good as you imagined. Perhaps I'll have a salad. I swear, it's not because we have been surrounded by leaves all day. Your stomach gurgled at the mention of food. The new plan was just in time, and you headed straight up to Baxter's room. That was smooth, Baxter. He led the way to his suite like the hotel was the back of his hand, though it was a simple layout. Oh, really? It's rare that I get room service. Usually I order food. But not room service. I just order through Uber. Yeah. Cove is baby. You know, we all love Cove. I do like having the DLC options, though. Like, I love Cove, but sometimes I'm in the mood for, like, some Derek or some Baxter. And I like that I have that now. But Cove is always number one. At the end of this, Baxter might be number one, just because Baxter in general is more my general type. But that's just me. But under his confident guidance, you reached the destination and he dropped your bags on the floor. The carpet muffled the thump. Baxter spread his now free arms widely to welcome you in. Please take a seat wherever you like. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how this next one's going to be. I'm sad this is the last DLC too. I don't know what else they could do with it, but at the same time I'm kind of like, surely we could do something. There could be another DLC, couldn't there? Because I don't know if I'm gonna like these other characters as much as I like the characters in this game. Yeah. Are that? I mean, that's good to know that you've played the demo and it is good so far. Yeah. I agree with that, Kai. We were talking about that the other day, yesterday. Personally, for me, my quality of lifestyle changes would be allowing there to be more discourse. And if problems arise, to not just let your family off the hook or like things like that. But that's me. Not everyone wants that kind of experience in these kinds of games, and I understand that. You can be a complete asshole. Oh, bless. I can't wait to be a complete asshole. Perfect. Baxter moved toward the nightstand and scrounged up a pamphlet on hotel services. You sat down at the side table. I didn't get a choice of where to sit. What if I want to sit on the bed? Baxter flipped through the booklet until he spied the menu. Oh, those kind of... Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Oh, okay. Interesting. So yeah, I agree with those things you said, Kai. Like, having those things would be actually very nice. And I like those options, too. If I feel like being really mean, I can be now. Found it. He joined you around the table and placed the menu down so both of you could read it. At a glance, most of the options were classic comfort foods. It matched the cabin in the woods aesthetic that the hotel was going for. However, it also had a sprinkling of more high-end options to cater to a certain set of its clientele. It couldn't be understated how weird the concept of getting lobster in a hotel was. All entrees came with seasonal veggies and a homemade roll. In addition, you could also pick a side of mashed potatoes, fries, French onion soup, or a salad. Oh, that's nice. Teasing or mean. Yeah. I think it's because of the way they added things on, but I do think there's more step 3 after you get the credits, and it's just... change where the credits are. Baxter was hemming and hawing as he did when spoiled for choice. You could only hope it wouldn't be as much of a struggle for him as choosing which ice cream to get. Yeah, I know that's because of how it was structured on release day and then things that came after. So, but hopefully they can look forward. Yeah. I read about that. So I didn't play the game until after the wedding DLC was out. But when I looked up stuff, I saw order of release and stuff like that. So there was no step 4 yet. So it makes sense because of how it was released where the credits are. But I wish they could have, like, changed it at the same time as they made those adjustments. You considered the options for yourself and decided on what to get. Should we go full-on fancy? Lobster, an oyster and scallop platter. Get something really expensive. Lobster. And for the side, you picked your favorite of the list. Lobster and mashed potatoes, lobster and fries, lobster and French onion soup. Let's be good and get a side salad. There's nothing standing out on the menu for me, but that makes it easy. I'll get the risotto and a side salad. So, you're getting your bowl of leaves after all. I am indeed. Baxter confirmed your order again, as well as repeating his own before swanning over to the room phone. He dialed room service and placed the order promptly.
Goodbye.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye. He hung up the call and sat down on the corner of the bed. He tapped his fingers on his leg. All that was left was to wait. He decided to spend the time cooling down from the hike and cleaned up a bit. Baxter cranked up the AC and washed his face with a damp towel. You collected a bucket of ice from the hallway ice machine and treated yourself to some crisp water. About 30 minutes after the order was put in, a knock rattled the door. Baxter volunteered to get it. Yes. I mean, he would want elegantly prepared, specially selected leaves instead of eating them outside. So posh. Rich boy. Hello. He opened the door and let in a waiting staff member. The employee rolled in a cart carrying literal silver platters. They set out the food on the table for you. Please enjoy your dinner. Let us know if you need anything else. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Privately, you were impressed by the fanciness of the presentation. The staff member made their farewells, leaving you to your meal. You reconvened around the table once more.
Well.
This food comes from the restaurant in the hotel. It's not a small operation preparing it. Oh? Chatting and chewing happened in turns. The topic inevitably came to your preferences for food. Everyone always talks about fries and ice cream going together well, but honestly, they're missing out on the obvious. Fries and whipped cream are even better. It's still the sweet and salty combination, but you don't have to deal with cold fries. That wasn't even the first strange food he'd brought to the conversation. He'd start off with something innocuous, then slip in an oddity to watch your reaction. How many were real and how many fell into the realm of 60% unique plants? I.e., complete and utter nonsense. Gross. I'll have to try it. Have you ever thought of trying fries with pies? You did not comment. I'll have to try it. Think we could call room service again? Baxter snorted in delight. You were tempted to push it even further and go for the phone. If you desire, who am I to stop you? But we may want to finish what we have first. We shouldn't let it go to waste. Fine. Seriously? You think I'm not gonna dip some fries into some whipped cream and eat them? I feel like fries and ice cream is a very American thing. And it's mostly because of Wendy's. Because they have these Frosties, which are like milkshake things. And it just became a thing to like get a Frosty and fries and like dip your fry in the Frosty and eat it. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't... Most people in Europe, when they hear of that, also because of the word differences and stuff, it gets very confusing. And most of them are just like, what? You do what? Like, look, just, it's an American thing, okay? Americans do weird combinations. After many food admissions that made Baxter either the king of weird taste buds or a reigning jester, dinner came to an end. Yeah. Yeah. When you glanced at the clock, you found it was later than you ever would have guessed. It had been a long day. Sitting back in your chair, you stretched your arms up. Your legs were feeling the effect of traipsing uphill for miles. A yawn bubbled up when your phone rang. Who'd be calling you at this time? You pulled out your phone to check if there was anything that mattered or a spam call. Liz's name showed on the screen. Right. Of course your sister wouldn't wait any longer for the mandatory check-in. You were late. At least she hadn't jumped straight to the police.
In that case...
You're welcome to answer that if you like. I can give you privacy. No, it's my sister. You don't have to go anywhere. You tapped the screen to answer the call and put it on speaker. That way both of you could say hello. Sup, Liz?
Hey.
Surprise check-in, Ryan. Are you still alive? Did that Victorian-era emo man give you any trouble? Liz is on speaker. You cough violently at that opener. You laughed hysterically. He's not a Victorian emo man. Victorian-era emo men don't exist. Yes, I live. I mean, technically, I think quite a lot of the men in Victorian era were a little emo. They just didn't know how to express it. I don't know which one to pick. Do we want to just go with Yes, I Live, or do we want to laugh? That is kind of funny. We'll laugh. Victorian what? You were choking. For all her attempts to keep you safe, Liz was going to be the cause of your death. Baxter was already leaning on the table with his elbows propped up on the counter. Now he lazily rested his chin on one of his fists.
Hello.
That's certainly a unique description. I can't say I've ever heard of the likes of it before. Oh. She paused. Liz was now aware that she said that in front of the so-called Victorian-era emo man.
So what?
I stand by it. Hello to you, Baxter. I'm making sure that everything is well with my little sibling. You understand. I do, completely. Fine, so again, what are you doing? We just had room service for dinner. Sheesh. Lucky. I had to make my own dinner. Like a peasant. Sucks for you.
Jeez.
Brat. You have room service once, and now you're lording it over me. You heard her click her tongue disapprovingly. Where did my sweet baby sibling go? You never had a sweet baby sibling. On vacation, without any peasants. The two of you shot out a few more snipes at each other. None were meant to strike anywhere lethal. It was all in good fun. Baxter watched with increasing entertainment. Anyway, clearly you're still breathing, so I'll let you go. It'd be discourteous to keep you from your suitor any longer. She spoke in a mock formal tone, poking at Baxter. He playfully responded. How gracious of you, Miss Sej. You are indeed a gentlewoman.
Bye.
See you tomorrow, kiddo. Yeah. See you too.
Take care.
I will. Make sure you take care of them. On that slightly threatening note, Liz hung up. Baxter's lips twitched upwards. Your family is charmingly protective. I realize that more and more every day. They're overprotective. There's nothing charming about it. Overprotective. You could say it. Overprotective. They're the best. I'm sorry about Liz's comment. Protective or like annoying. I'm glad you're willing to put up with it. They're not usually like this. It's just unusual circumstances. That right? You should. Okay. Protective, more like annoying. I understand their perspective, though. I am nearly a stranger, and I cannot deny that I'm imposing a great deal on your free hours. It's good to be cautious. Not that cautious. Yeah. They are always like that. It's true.
Honestly.
And truly, I do like your family. At least as much as I can from the little we've interacted. Speaking of... He lifted his head, and his hand fell under his chin instead. He furrowed his brow. In general, I would never dare to be this presumptuous, but I cannot deny that I am deeply curious about you as a person. Uh-huh. So I'll venture to ask if you'd be willing to share more about your family history. Oh. It made sense. Your family wasn't a mother and father who had children born to them. You knew that much. There were more ways than one that you all could have come together. You didn't remember ever explaining anything to him. Don't really want to talk about it. That's fine. I don't mind talking about it. You shook your head. I don't mind talking about it. I don't care. You could at least give him the highlights. Baxter humored many of your questions about him. Getting to know each other better was a two-way street. I'm adopted, and Liz is too. We're from different places, and we were adopted at different times. But we were both really young. We've spent almost our entire lives together.
I see.
It's nice when the voice lines fit the dialogue. Well, it's fantastic how you have made your own beautiful family. Thanks, Baxter. His words made you feel warm inside. You respected how easily he took it. It made you wonder about his family situation. He had been rather closed-mouthed about it so far. And again, the two-way street analogy came to mind. Are you and your parents blood related? Oh yes, we certainly are. His voice took on a certain amused bend. His lips stretched thin. My parents might have well been through with me many times over if I wasn't their own flesh and blood. Words. Tripping. Help. Before you could ask what he meant by that, he chuckled. Sorry, no, that is me being dramatic. They're family, and I'm their son. That's what matters at the end of the day, blood related or not. Okay, it's nice your parents care about you. You wouldn't voice the flicker of worry. I'm thankful for that as well. Now, if I wasn't the boy they raised together in any capacity, then there would be problems. He laughed some more and brought his fingers to his lips. That topic was over. Well... He pulled at the collar of his roommate's shirt. His gaze searched out the room's ticking clock.
Good night.
It's been a delightful day, but I should not linger forever. There is much to do tomorrow. Good night, Ryan. That's it? I thought we were having spicy times. You said evening and night. Also, weren't we in his room? Did I miss that? Did we go to my room at some point? I'm confused. He stood and with a slight wave, he grabbed his bag to go. Oh. Okay. It is his room. I thought so. I was like, wait. Baxter, this is your room. Where are you going? Ah. He's so stupid. Suddenly flustered, Baxter scratched the back of his zebra head. He then grinned down at you. That is correct. He stiffly returned to his chair and sat with one knee held up to his chest. Probably. Then I will, in fact, stay right here. You, however, are welcome to go when you are ready. You cackled and got to your feet, sparing him from further embarrassment. Oh. With you moving to leave, Baxter found his shoes very interesting. Why do you still have shoes on in the hotel room? I hope you get some sleep. Baxter hesitated to reply. You paused, sensing that he would answer. He just needed a little more time to choose the right words.
Well,
I do intend to sleep, but in truth, I don't expect it will be soon. I will be packing after you take your leave, and after that, who knows? That's a lot of words to build a mystery. What do you mean? Baxter chuckled and tapped his foot. I said who knows, didn't I? You crossed your arms, unimpressed. He snorted at you, and it was difficult keeping a straight face. He'd better explain soon.
all right.
Okay, that's not exactly correct. I'll admit I know myself fairly well. I also am aware of a drink station in the lobby that is open at every hour. There's also a fire that stays lit all throughout the night as well. I'm expecting that instead of being in bed like a proper young man, I will end up in the lobby with a cup of tea. Tea. Right. Do you mind some company? Oh, that's an idea. Please get some sleep. Baxter, that's a bad idea. You looked at him with wide-eyed intrigue. You sighed and shook your head. Would you mind some company? Hot drinks by the fire sounded lovely. You hoped that he was fine if you wandered down yourself.
Oh?
He narrowed his eyes and his smile curved up more. Am I the bad influence here? Are we enablers to one another? Enablers, you're not a bad influence, but you're a very bad influence. No one can make me worse. Neither. I've got to look out for you. I'm a worse influence on you. But what? What's this but? I either want to go with enablers or no one can make me worse. Let's go with enablers. Yes, I thought so. Well, we haven't gone off the rails yet, so I believe we should be fine. His amusement was tangible, and you already looking forward to the next outing. I'll text you when I've made it to the lobby. His eyes twinkled with a familiar mischief. You keep your phone close.
See you.
Good night, Ryan. For now. With that, you twisted the handle and left. You made it to your own identical room, conveniently right next door. The door's deadbolt clicked shut behind you, and you flicked on the lights. Despite the new illumination, the suit was not as bright as Baxter's room. How was Baxter's room so lively, while yours was this? You sat on your cold bed and sighed. A familiar carpet was spread beneath your feet. The walls were a match. The same pictures were attached to the wall. Physically, there wasn't a difference. It's the company that's different. The change was the fact that now you were by yourself. After spending all day with Baxter's grin, you were lonely in its absence. But at least that wouldn't last long. You'd see Baxter again soon, one way or another. The last and only full day of your mini vacation was drawing to a close, and the warm night pressed back and silent against the window panes. You tucked yourself into bed for a break, but had left all the room lights on. You didn't want to fall asleep yet, naturally. You idled the minutes away by counting the planks in the ceiling. Eventually, there came the ticklish buzz of a text arriving. Unlocking your phone, you saw that Baxter sent you a message. It was short and to the point. I'm downstairs. He finally finished his packing. There was no need to respond. He knew you were okay. Also, why did he go down? Our rooms are literally right next to each other. Why didn't he just come to the door and be like, I'm leaving now? Why did he go downstairs first? Mystery? You wiggled out from under the covers and hopped off the bed, eager for the secret meeting. Is it secret? Is this a secret meeting? I know. No unnecessary flourishes. What? You crept into the hall, which was brightly lit, although all the other patrons were holed up in their rooms for the night. No staff were manning the front desk. It was dead quiet and still. To be fair, there should be staff at the front desk, because usually someone has to be there at all hours just in case. But okay, we'll go with it. As you padded your way downstairs, the omnipresent silence seemed like it was something you could touch. A thin blanket swaddling you. Your footsteps and breathing felt muffled. In spite of that, the air was fairly cold. The grand foyer had high ceilings, and the mezzanine floors were wide open. And the mezzanine floors and wide open space invited a permanent draft. There we go. Yeah. I mean, they could be, like, just not at the desk. They could be, like, in a room behind. So, we just don't see anyone. The central fireplace might come across totally pointless in the middle of summer in California, but that wasn't given its due. Now blazing bravely against the chill, it was a welcome beacon of comfort. Surrounding the hearth was a raised stone platform. There you could see a lone seated figure, silhouetted against the flames. It was Baxter, warming himself by the fire. A paper cup was clutched in his hands, a pale film of steam. Yes, pale film of steam, that's what it says, rising from it. He hadn't changed into his pajamas, still sporting that khaki interloper. He's still wearing the khaki? He must have counted on nobody else being around to see the horror that late. The dull thud of feet on carpeted floor heralded your approach. His portrait smoothly transitioned from a profile to a three-quarter view. His eyes met yours, and he grinned. Ryan, glad you can make it. Yeah. Yes, I'll be so cool just waiting by the fire as they approach. Cool and mysterious and handsome, and yes. Yeah, they are nice. I don't do them myself. Like, when I was going to conventions, I mostly went with friends, or met up with friends, and we just stayed in the hotel room if we weren't at the convention, because we're boring. And it was usually anime conventions, so we would just be in our hotel room watching other anime. Instead of, doing any late night stuff. Me too. Those endless stairs almost had me beat. A wicked set of stairs, aren't they? You were lucky to arrive in one piece. Rolling the thin cup slowly between his palms, Baxter jerked his head over to one side, drawing your attention to a long table up against the far wall.
Very well.
The drink station is over there if you care to partake. A beverage of some kind might be just the thing to top off our late-night rendezvous. Sure thing, I'll be just a sec. After crossing the lobby, you stood in front of the refreshment bar. It was covered in a thick tablecloth the color of fresh snow, and a neat arrangement of clean crockery that had been laid out on top. There were a couple of jugs of hot water, and a wide selection of different drink packets and individual tea bags. Next to those, 2 more urns of pre-made coffee had been labeled regular and decaf. A carafe off to one side seemed to house spiced apple cider. The menagerie of liquid containers was completed with 3 smaller silvery ones, each containing a different kind of milk. They weren't stingy on the options, that was for sure. You decided to go for cider. You picked up a cup and poured yourself a measure of the cider. It had been heated, and you were treated to a complex bouquet. Apple, cinnamon, of course, though you had some trouble placing all the fragrances. You snapped on a lid and ambled over to the fireplace again, Baxter raising his drink to tap it gently against yours. Welcome back. What's your poison? I went for a bracing cup of peppermint tea myself. It's very wintry in California. Seriously, you kind of forget it's summer because of the whole theme of this lodge and everything. I got cider. Delightful. A momentary flash of realization crossed his face, then he let out a huff of amusement. It appears we find ourselves out to drinks yet again, Ryan. I must apologize for the lack of originality. I promise I do other things in my spare time occasionally. I don't know, Baxter. Twice is a coincidence, but 3 times? That's a pattern. I believe most humans make it a pattern to drink liquids regularly. You snorted quietly into your cup. Maybe. I'll have to look into it. Baxter scooted over on his perch, patting the stonework with his free hand to indicate that you should take a seat beside him. You plopped yourself in front of the fire, relishing the cozy glow on your skin and the heated slabs beneath you. Baxter was staring absently into the grate. As you sat there with him, enveloped in the warmth of the fireplace and the closeness of his presence, you felt sleepy, safe, comfortable, like you could have drifted off right there to a flame you couldn't have slept in a million years. A flame, because we're at a fireplace, and probably really turned on. We're fucking aflame. Baxter slowly sipped his tea and then set his cup down next to him. It's funny. More than once on this little excursion, I found myself forgetting that I'm supposed to be on a summer vacation. Oh, I'm sure. Especially right now, curled up in front of a fire, cradling a cup of something hot. It puts me in a mind of long autumn nights, when the days are beginning to waste away to nothing. And this decor, too. The wood, the stone, the grandeur. I might have believed myself back in my childhood home in Oregon. Really? He lifted a leg up onto the edge and tucked his knee under his chin, still focused on the burning light. His expression was distant, wistful. Yes, it's one of the reasons I chose this hotel, as a matter of fact. Though I never lived in a building on this scale, the effect is similar. So, he lives in an Oregon lodge. You could say that I was raised in a big, cool house. Cool in the sense of impressive, rather than underheated. That was what my friends used to call it. I loved it when they would come and visit. There was scarcely anything better. They never got over their sense of awe, and I ate it up. I like to think of myself special in those days. To be young and innocent. Dude, you're 19. You're still so baby. His features melded into a form that was more familiar, a curt little smile. How strange. Usually I find indulging in nostalgia to be an unpleasant endeavor, but here and now, it's easy. And it's nice. I suppose it's because for once I can share my thoughts with another person, rather than ruminating on the past by myself. His eyes peeked askance to yours before returning once more to the flames. You placed your hand lightly over his, you scooched closer, you let yourself rest fully against him. Oh, choices. I mean, we very tall. We'll have to crouch to do this, but we're still gonna do this one. Let yourself rest fully against him, one cheek to the side of his head. Oh, head. Yeah, 'cause we're tall. We're tall. We're very tall. I keep forgetting I made ourselves so tall in this one. He leaned into it and gave a sigh of pleasure. You had made him happy. It hasn't been easy to find anyone to reminisce with, not for a while. But then again, I only developed sentimentality, yeah, I said it right the first time. Once I'd gone off to college. That tends to happen in college. I was too young and proud for that sort of matter before then. There wasn't anything in my life to harbor much sentimentality for. I suppose leaving was the catalyst. Isn't it always? I know. I'm pretty short in real life. And even then, I tend to make really tiny characters. I've done the tall thing a couple times too. I think I've done all heights, in all honesty, but yeah. The best was doing tall with Derek. Because Derek's already so short. I mean, he grows. But during step 2, he's so tiny then. And I made myself extra spicy tall. That was fun. But once that part of my mind had developed, there wasn't anyone around to share the emotions with. It is so funny. My classmates and I, we don't have that kind of relationship.
Well.
Now, this may be a complete shock to you, but I've been told that I can come across a bit too forward. I know. It can be hard to believe. I love grabbing the book in the library. You could do that even before the DLC came out. But still, grabbing the book in the library is so fun. Because he gets so, he's all just Your face cracked into a grin. Understatement of the year, anybody? My intent is to be open with people so we can connect. It almost never works out that way, though. I had come to terms with the fact that I don't possess a knack for making friends. It was obnoxiously easy when I was a child, especially due to that aforementioned big cool house. But now I keep finding myself at a loss for how to do it. With a hit or miss endeavor, the vast majority of the time I come up with a miss. Only lately it's been different. Incredibly different. I almost worry my luck won't last. His voice had dropped to a low murmur, barely audible over the crackling wood in the grate. It will all be over soon. It was an echo of what he'd said after your hike this afternoon, but this time it went one small step further.
I wish I could stay.
Oh. You have school. His eyes were closed now, and a shallow crease had appeared in his forehead. You understood that he was talking about more than your short stint in this hotel. I don't want it to end either. It was wonderful while it lasted. You could visit again someday. Even once it's over, there are things to look forward to. You squeeze his hand tight for a moment. I think I'm gonna go with I don't want it to end either. Yeah. That means a lot, Ryan. Thank you. He lapsed into silence once more, becoming engrossed in his own thoughts. You found that you were doing the same, disparate emotions drifting in and out of clarity. You both lingered a while longer, but your cups had been emptied and the fire was getting low. Baxter sighed. Unfortunately, we best call it quits here. We can't stave off the morning by avoiding sleeping altogether. That sucks, but it's true. You got up from the fireplace in unison. At some point, you started holding hands, though you couldn't remember when. You climbed the stairs and walked down the hall in companionable quiet. Pausing in front of the doors to your side-by-side rooms, Baxter cleared his throat, letting his hand fall from yours.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for your company, Ryan. It's been an enjoyable evening. Until tomorrow, then. His back was to you as he reached his rear pocket, fetching his keycard. You were still conscious of that restlessness when sitting by the fireplace. Your blood was hot under your skin, and your heart was beating, strong and insistent. Spicy. Your insides were stinging with a kind of want, a desire that took the form of the man in front of you. There was a choice you might make, if you dared to ask. So, don't hate me, but I really have to pee, so I'm just gonna leave it on that scene right there and I'll be right back. Enjoy! Okay, back. Yep, typical cliffhanger. Look, the timing actually just worked out perfectly for that, so... I was gonna have to pause at some point anyway. Okay. Choices. Wanna come inside for a minute? In my room, I mean. Are you positive you gotta go to sleep right now? It's a short trip to my room. Hey, could you come to my room for a bit if you want? No, you shook the sensation. We are not shaking the sensation off. Are you kidding me right now? Not this one. Probably just this one. We're pretty direct. So wanna come inside for a minute? In my room, I mean. Baxter swiveled, one hand still in his pocket. His eyebrows had quirked upwards. His mouth bowed in a sweet V of a smile. What, missing me already? Much as I hate to say goodnight, it wouldn't be sensible to continue our tryst any later, wouldn't you say? We can speak more tomorrow. You fixed him with a deadpan look, willing him to pick up the hint. He's so stupid. Why are they all stupid? Cove's also stupid. Derek was also a little stupid. They're all just stupid in different ways. Forget talking. What about stuff that's best done in the dead of the night? You sighed, giving up. Maybe this is for better. What if that's the point? To do something not sensible? He flashed a strange smile. I almost want to do the deadpan look, but I'm not sure if he's gonna get it. Seriously, we just love stupid. It's okay, they could be stupid. They have other redeeming qualities. It's perfectly fine. Yeah, I want to just do... Because that would be me in real life. I would do the deadpan look. Like, are you kidding me right now? That. He stared at you for a second or two, frowning slightly. You watched as his porcelain complexion was gradually colored with the merest shade of red. His eyes narrowed. Oh, blushies. I see. Oh. Music changed. Here we go. He let out an unguarded laugh, like you'd caught him completely on the back foot. His focus dipped for an instant to your mouth, and he swallowed. If the invitation is open, a brief visit could certainly be arranged. You found his hand again with yours, pulling him over to door 194. He let himself be led, his grip eager. Together, you slipped into the bedroom. Spice tops! Inside, Baxter politely shut the door and, less respectfully, rested his spine up against it. His pupils had gone wide in his soft brown eyes. He waited. You took a moment to take it in, the curves of his legs, the boyish set of his shoulders, the swept strands of hair at the nape of his neck. It increased that niggling tension tenfold, a hook at the base of your skull. It tugged at you more keenly than ever, perhaps because you knew this was temporary. Baxter wouldn't be near enough to touch for much longer, but you wanted whatever you could have. Ooh, choices. If this goes anything like the Cove stuff, it means that I'll have opportunity to do a couple of those. I don't think you ever have enough time to do all of them, so there's always going to be like one. Hesitated, pressed him eagerly to the door, prayerfully leaned in. Oh, no, it's not these choices yet. There are choices, if it's anything like the Cove stuff, and the Dark stuff. The Dark stuff was actually pretty hot. Just talking about it, we were making out in his room, finally. We're this. Pressing eagerly into the door. He let out a hushed grunt as his head bumped the wood, but it spiraled down several octaves, transmuting to an excited half-groan of pleasure. You pinned him there, your body's flesh. Reading this out loud is very different than just reading it. The kiss was volatile, dangerous even, a heady concoction born of pressure and heat, and short, sharp gasps. Every so often, it would slosh over the sides, but the mess was part of the enjoyment. Yeah. He smelled faintly of sweat and shampoo, and there was a pepper and see, and also I have to actually read it correctly for it to have any effect. And there was peppermint on his tongue. Over and above it all, there was a floral scent that clung to his skin. Yeah, that's how sentences work. Yes. It was a fragrance you had experienced before, when he let you borrow his shirt. His favorite cologne, perhaps. It was obvious Baxter liked your hands on him. It was in the way he moved underneath your touch, his legs and his hips and his torso shifting in an unconscious dance. He is a dancer, very flexible. Ooh, I bet he's really flexible. Your bodies intertwine in stages. Baxter caressed the back of your head with his slender fingers, his other arm around your waist. Your palms were to his chest, fingers clutching at the shirt fabric. Are we still at the door? Have we not moved from the door? He pulled briefly away at this, apparently tickled by something. You caught a flash of his canines. It's probably too late to return the shirt to its rightful owner, I have too many memories wrapped up in it now.
It's settled.
My roommate will simply have to learn to live without the eyesore. Well, I'll get him a new one. You both shook with suppressed laughter, holding each other in the stillness of your hotel room. Close the distance to kiss his face again, or you leaned in to press your mouth up. This one. Neck kisses. Yes. You heard him let out a gasp and felt his throat quiver under your tongue. His pulse was there, a rapid, passionate beating. Ah. You glanced up to see his eyes half-lidded, and he peered down at you with an expression of complete fascination. He laughed again, the sound as clear as a stream.
You're very good.
You certainly know what you are doing, Ryan. I know how these things work. But before you could continue, there was a squeeze of a hand on your shoulder. Baxter had broken away, his grip tender but firm, his face turned, his eyes falling to the door handle beside him. We don't have full sexy time? Just door makeout? I'm suing. This was only ever intended to be a short encounter. That was the pretext you'd given. It was time to say goodnight for real. That is not what I agreed on. It's always step 4. I never get satisfaction in step 3. Ever. Fine. Spicy door makeout is fine. It's fine. I guess I'll leave now then. Okay, I'll let you go now. You reached for the handle, making to leave. You stepped away, giving him space to depart. We're in my room. Why would I leave? We are in my room, right? Yeah, my room. Ah. I want to see what what it leads to. I want to see. Okay. Okay. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna do the... We'll fully go with the guess I'll leave now. Because that's kind of funny. Baxter nodded slowly, his attention only half there. He remained in a sort of daze from what had transpired. You were experiencing something similar yourself. You slipped into the hallway again. Baxter's gaze went with you, but you pulled the door shut, blocking his view, and let out a long, calming breath. Seriously, that's why I think it's kind of funny. You patted yourself down, hunting for wherever you stashed your keycard, and happened to glance up at the number you had exited through. Your attempt to be subtle was immediately breached with a spluttering noise. You were holding the card for the room you just left. You'd shut Baxter inside your own room. You scrambled to unlock the door again, bursting through to find Baxter standing exactly where you left him, staring at you. He hadn't moved an inch. This is... yeah. So I should... probably... You hurriedly exchanged places, Baxter planting himself in the entryway, while you sidled back inside your own room. It was an embarrassing shuffle the two of you performed. Then Baxter shook himself down, the mortification slouching off in favor of his usual assured self. He hovered with his hand on the latch. Thank you for the wonderful, no, sublime invitation. It's been... extraordinary. You invited me here first, don't forget. I should be thanking you. They are so stupid. Look, we have slightly more brain power than them, but like, we're still stupid too. His eyes twinkled with silent laughter. Mutual sentiment can be a wonderful thing. And with that, he was gone. The door swung shut as he went, the lock engaged with a dull thunk, its sound cutting clean through the thrumming tension that had strung the air. Without thinking about it, you found yourself drawn over to the bed. Your head was totally empty. The last thing you registered before surrendering to the embrace of sleep was a cool sensation on your tongue, the lingering taste of peppermint. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Most of the time, Ryan has two and Baxter only has one, but every now and then, that third one just... nope. Sometimes it just hovers in between them and can't decide where to go. A new day greeted you suddenly and without warning. Sunshine streaming in through the windows. The curtains simply stood there and let it happen. You'd forgotten to draw them shut. The end to your miniature holiday had come. You promptly got out of bed and began to pack, following your usual routine as best you could. You didn't end up seeing Baxter again until after 11 o'clock. As promised, he'd taken a lie-in after burning the midnight oil, and had to make a last mad dash in order to check out at noon. Luckily, you managed the departure without too much of an issue. The two of you loaded up the car and set off for home. Home for one of you, at least. While you were returning to your normal life, Baxter was instead exchanging one kind of vacation for another. Or maybe, you thought, watching the California landscape drift past the window, Baxter was leaving his own version of normal behind right now. The Mountainside Lodge had been home, away from home for him. A simulacrum? Words. Simulacrum. Okay. Yes, I have a thing up so I can Google words, so I know how to say them. Of his life in Oregon. Much more familiar than a sleek condo by the sea. You continued to reflect on this as the road rolled out before you. Occasionally you would swap comments with Baxter on random subjects, at other times retreating into the privacy of your own head. There's so many words that, like, fancy language, like, I'm a dumb American. I don't have that much vocabulary. Rapidly, your time up on a mountain was fading into memory. You were lucky you decided to have seen a small piece of Baxter. He had entrusted you a shard of himself, a tiny spark of light, shining from somewhere deep inside. You understood him better, even if only a fraction. That was probably the only glimpse into the real life of Baxter Ward that you'd get. Oh, that's the end. Okay. I can't do the last one today. Can't read through another 3 hours. I was considering doing something else, but I think I feel stuffy enough. So let's switch over to this and play that. Yeah, okay. Quit. They're so long. They're so long. It's literally... Again, I was thinking about playing something else, but I think I'm just gonna stop for today, because I'm just really stuffed up right now, and I feel like congestion and just allergies and pressure and everything. So we got through it. I am off tomorrow, and in all honesty, I might do another short stream like I did today and just do the last moment so we can get to step 4 at the end of the week. So I might do that. I won't worry about playing any other games. Like, we'll do the last step 3 moment tomorrow, and then... Okay, So next weekend is also a little bit interesting. Next weekend is my birthday. And I don't have anything planned per se. I probably will still stream on Friday. Saturday is my actual birthday. So I don't actually know if I'm going to stream on that day yet or not. And possibly, because I don't really have any other plans at the moment. But if things change, then I'll post on my Twitter and on Instagram like updates if I'm not going to stream on those days or not. So those are my socials. There is the Discord also. I don't post updates there, but I just post when I go live on there. And eventually it will get more complex, but right now it's literally just a place for me to post when I'm going live. Yeah, okay. So plans for next week. We'll be back tomorrow to do the last... Oh, a week before your birthday? Well, happy almost birthday also. June birthdays. Woo. So yeah, this is one of the times where I actually remembered things are happening next week. Most of the time I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna be streaming Friday. Oops. Nope, not streaming Friday. Because I forgot of schedule changes. Yeah, so I took off around my birthday next weekend also. So even if I don't stream on my actual birthday, I took off a couple days after that. So I'll stream on like the Sunday or Monday after. So we shall see. I'll definitely stream on Friday unless plans change. Because I don't know if I might go out with friends or not. So we'll see. Tentative plans. But thank you everyone for showing up and for chatting. Please follow if you haven't. I'm still trying to get to affiliate. Follow me on my socials to see when I stream next. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your weekend. And goodbye!